Shellshock presents.
Ready?
Sharing with Shellshock Season 4.
New Age of Heroes.
All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sharing with Shellshock. I am your host, ShellshockPrime, and here, yep, I'm right here.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
I got nervous. I was like, oh no, his lips are moving.
No, like I make sure that like people in the chat hear me first before they hear you guys. But yeah, anyway, good to see you guys. We are here. Sharing with Shellshock is back after taking a break for the summer. Now here we are with the second half of season 4. We're going to be talking about wrestling tonight, specifically a specific era that was pivotal to the world of professional wrestling, the Monday Night Wars, the time when the World Wrestling Federation, as it was called at the time, took on World Championship Wrestling on Monday nights with their flagship programs. So before we get to that, let's introduce all of our guests, all of which have been returning guests from previous episodes. So, Silver, welcome back.
Yeah, we're back here, second half of season 4. I feel like I was there for the beginning of season 4. Then I was like just casually just hanging out in the audience, and now I'm back again.
Yep.
Like, I think I've lost kind of how many appearances I have made so far, but I'm not sure if I'm the leading one just yet. I'll have to keep a tally of that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, here to play some wrestling. Here to talk about some good wrestling tonight.
Here to talk about good wrestling. I'm looking forward to doing so. Yoshils, it's good to have you back on.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing as good as I can. Hope you're doing good.
I am doing fantastic now. I'm here.
Yeah, just right now, tonight is all about talking about wrestling, specifically like late 90s, early 2000s wrestling.
Yes. I like to be a nerd, so this is perfect for me.
Yep. And also good to have you back on, Jeremy, the Nostalgia Alchemist.
Hey, thank you so much, Shell. Always a pleasure. Great to meet Yoshils tonight, and always a pleasure to see Sylverstone Khandr as well. And I must say that I saw the both of you at the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo this past summer, and always a pleasure to see you in person. And once again, thank you so much for being so kind to my son. As always, he was very excited to actually see you, Shell. He's like, "Oh, is ShellshockPrime going to be there?" It's like, "Yes, he is." You're like a celebrity to him, buddy. So once again, thank you for bringing me back on. It's always nice. And I would like to call attention quickly to my shirt before we get started. It's not a Monday Night War shirt, but remember, everyone, nowadays it is very important to rise above hate.
Oh, yes. Nice.
Please rise above hate.
Wonderful.
But yes, thank you again for having me on. Always a pleasure. Can't wait to talk about this tonight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the Monday Night Wars, the Monday Night Wars basically like have been around for a long time, but wait. There's one more thing I got to do. All right. So Silver, what type of content you do?
Yes.
Oh yeah, of course, obviously. Well, what? How do I describe this? Because like it's been like so long. Typically, video game content on my channel, full playthroughs, a lot of like indie game showcases and for consideration, and really a mix of everything. Like I do what I feel is fun and awesome, and really truly, I've slipped into like more of like the hobby streamer lately, where like I'm just trying to have fun and have a good time. I'm also reached 8 years as an affiliate, and longevity is a good thing. I'm glad I'm still enjoying streaming, and just glad to keep doing more of it.
Yep. And Yoshils, I know you haven't been streaming lately, but what have you been up to?
Living life. Been working out, chilling, Keeping my mind cool. I was streaming for 10 years. That's why I ended up stopping because I had a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
And I even got a promotion at work, so I have to focus on that.
Oh, very nice. Very
Very
nice.
nice.
So that's why I'm not streaming anymore. But I do have an Instagram where I do show off Pokemon cards because I am a nerd and I have a bunch of those.
All
I
right.
do have other
Nice.
stuff too. It's just the Pokemon cards are taking a precedent because it's very popular nowadays.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
of course.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Awesome. Congrats on your promotion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. What about you, Jeremy?
Well, you know me. I am the Nostalgia Alchemist, and I'm always here for whenever you remember why. I am the place on Twitch where we glance back to focus forward, bridging those nostalgic gaps together and moving towards a progressive future together and a brighter tomorrow for the future. I do a lot of different things. I'm a SAG-AFTRA union member trying to break into voiceover. It's been a couple of years. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm fitting into all this. My affiliate anniversary is coming up, and I'm also hitting a really big milestone birthday in about 2 weeks. So I'm just trying to find my footing in the world with the Nostalgia Alchemist.
Nice.
And I'm making music again. I'm doing a lot of more things on Twitch. I'm back to making podcast episodes again after a unfortunately near fatal car accident back in February where I had to put a lot of things on the back end on hold, which is why I've only been primarily doing Twitch, just because I had a lot of other things going on. But now the momentum is kicking back in now that the school year is starting for my children. And I'm just always happy to be entertaining whoever wants to stop by. So thank you very much once again for having me on. Always a pleasure.
Sounds good. Yes. All right.
Also, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. Oh my
Hey,
God.
happy
Yeah, I'm gonna
birthday,
be,
yeah.
you know, I've been joking about this for like a couple of months now, but as a gamer looks at 40, he starts to know where they stand. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to find where I'm fitting into all this now. I'm not young anymore, but I don't feel it. You know, age is nothing but a number.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It feels good. It feels good.
So the Monday Night Wars started okay. So before the Monday Night Wars started, WWE they launched Monday Night Raw on January 11th, 1993. It was originally just 1 hour episodes. They started off taping the episodes live at the Manhattan Center, but then eventually they started doing some episodes would be live, some episodes would be pre-taped. They would go out everywhere else around the United States, and Canada, and then later on other parts of the world. But on September 4th, 1995, WCW launched a program of their own on Monday nights, which is Monday Nitro. And what on the night that they launched, WWF Raw was not on that night because I believe it had to do with they used to preempt it because of the Westminster Dog Show.
The dog show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which has been infamous for preempting a lot of WWF events, and tapings and all that stuff. So this gave WCW an opportunity to see if they can garner the same audience that Raw was getting around that time. And not only that they did, but also they actually managed to acquire one of WWF's stars at that time, which was Lex Luger, who
So package.
around that time he was wrestling in the WWF without a contract. It was a handshake agreement. They didn't really have that many guaranteed contracts at the time, which is something that's going to be a huge thing later on. But and the thing is, there were wrestlers who were signed with the WWF at the time that even saw Lex Luger the day before because he had a live show, like a house show and all that. And he even gave his word that he was staying in the company. And then the next night he shows up because they were at the Mall of America.
They were.
The commentary team, if I remember, was Steve Mongo McMichael, rest in peace, and Eric Bischoff. Those were the commentaries for the first night of WCW Nitro. And the fact that Lex Luger happened to show up during the first match of the night, which was Sting versus Ric Flair. And then people were like, wait, what the fuck? I thought he was in the WWF.
Yeah,
And-
Right.
the first salvo shot in the Monday Night War.
Yes. and it got.
Remember? Oh, wait. Before I mention this, are we gonna do X-Pac Heat tonight?
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay, but because you were just saying like I think it was Sean who was saying that he was like riding with Lex like no more than a week or two before he like jumped ship.
Yeah.
Or like it was mere days or something like that. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
We didn't even really know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they had the cage match, and then they had the curtain call because Nash and Scott Hall were leaving for WCW,
Yes.
and they got in big trouble for that.
They
So
Big trouble.
And but the main person that got punished out of all of them was Triple H.
yes, because he stayed, and then even Shawn Michaels left at that point too.
Yeah, and
He lost his smile.
and the thing is that
Yeah,
the
that's where that came from. Yeah,
the biggest what if I could think of regarding the curtain call is what if WWF would have actually fired Triple H.
yeah.
But
That's why it was crazy. They basically buried him a lot,
They
and then
did.
he came back.
I mean, looking what's happening now. Imagine,
Yeah.
you know, like that's mind blowing.
like but and one other moment I want to bring up before we get to like me asking you guys questions is this. I remember back in 1995, like December 95, WWF released like the majority of the women's wrestlers, including Alundra Blaze. So she went to WCW where she was Medusa again, and despite the fact that she was released, she was still the WWF Women's Champion.
Women's champion.
And she had the belt. She showed it off on WCW TV and dumped it into the garbage bin. She originally didn't want to do it, but it turns out that Eric Bischoff wanted her to do it.
Yeah, I'm glad at her Hall of Fame speech she took it out of the bin.
She took it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was class.
Yeah,
I didn't know that she still had it. Like, that was like a surprising bit.
yeah, like I thought that like they sent it back to WWF, but no, like she still had it, and then she obviously gave it back to WWE.
Well, you know, if you say no to a bit and you do it anyway, there's like a guilt behind it. Either you get rid of the object that causes it, or you just hold on to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was basically exiled from the WWF for a long time, and then of course, but yeah, like there's other moments that we'll bring up, like stuff that led to the Attitude Era, like the NWO, the Montreal Screwjob, and everything. There's a whole lot of that happened, and leading towards like when WWF bought WCW, but so much has happened. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, anyway, so Silver, I'll start with you on this one. Were you watching either WWF or WCW programming throughout the Monday Night Wars?
So considering the fact that again, like the Attitude Era started really in like 97,
Yes.
that's what people consider that, and then you know Nitro debuted in 95, Raw debuted in 93. Raw debuted the year I was born.
Yeah.
Just say that. By Nitro debut, I was 2 years old. By Attitude Era, I was 4. So I wasn't really aware of wrestling until I want to say at least say 98, 99. And I told this to the guys earlier, like before, as we were beginning. So my earliest memories of wrestling really were my brother and sister doing DX crotch chops at the house. Just, it was common. Like it was a culture, like saying "suck it" while chopping your crotch. Like that was like that was in.
Yeah.
And you know, and imagine me doing that at like 5 years old. My mom was like very cross with my siblings for teaching me that.
Yeah.
And
I love how your argument was it was culture.
it was a culture.
No, you're right. It's just,
I mean, I see my older brother and sister like doing it. I'm like, oh, that must be what that's probably what everyone's doing. You know, suck it. You know, I don't know what it means. But my mom's like, what are you teaching my baby? Like, thankfully, like wrestling wasn't really banned in the house. Like, my mom was like, okay, like, you know, obviously don't do that stuff at home. You know, obviously don't try this at home, like all that stuff. And you know, my older siblings were, you know, smart enough to like know what to do, what not to do. Granted, I'm gonna call maybe like one rack one time for my brother, but that's like, you know, way long ago.
Yeah.
But I would say that like firmly like the house was a WWF house. Like WCW was definitely popular, but like I feel like majority of the time this is towards like when the tide was changing towards WWF like really becoming the leader. You know, like as Nitro was kind of like losing their mojo, really. You know, after the so-called 83 weeks of dominance, you know, like WWF was like super popular. Like in their DX, they had Stone Cold, they had The Rock. You know, that was like to me, you know, truly, you know, that was what I really knew. Like I only really knew of WCW mostly again through later stars like Goldberg, and of course the games. You know, N64 was out at the time. You know, WCW NWO Revenge, WWF WrestleMania 2000,
Yep.
No Mercy. Like I remember very very like, you know, clearly whenever I before I'd go to school, I'd go to my neighbor's house, like his name is Michael, and we'd be playing either two games. We'd be playing Mortal Kombat Trilogy, or we playing WWF No Mercy.
Yep.
And or sometimes he does like Revenge. If I was playing Revenge, you know, I'd be playing as Sting. He'd be playing as like as Ric Flair, or I think it was Goldberg. But like we had our favorites that we had there. You know, I played, you know, Chris Jericho. I played with of course The Rock and Stone Cold, and of course like I had an affinity for Triple H as well. So
Yeah.
there was that.
All right.
So yeah, so typically I'd say WWF like around like 98, 99. But like again, I was young, so like my earliest wrestling memories were towards the twilight of the Monday Night War.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Yoshils?
Okay, so I've been watching wrestling since I was 3 because my brother is older than me. So he was watching it, I was watching it. My mother and father didn't care. So I was watching it during the new generation, which was Lex Luger and all those guys, Doink the Clown,
Yep.
and Jake Roberts, which he was one of my favorites at the time. Then what happened was, like you were saying, Lex Luger went to WCW, so I started watching it because I liked Lex Luger. So I was watching both WWF and Nitro. So during the commercials, we would switch back and forth to both shows to try to see everything. Because at the time there was no internet. So it's like either you watch it or you miss it. And then you got to hear about it the next day. So I was watching it since then. Video game wise, I was playing WWF Royal Rumble on the Super Nintendo. And then also on top of that, the arcade game, which was the one where Undertaker could shoot the ghost out of his hands
Yes.
and the hammer. Yeah. So I actually used to play that when I was a kid. I actually still have my complete inbox X32 game. So, but and then after when Nintendo 64 came out, because it's my favorite system, we did play No Mercy. Obviously, we played WCW versus NWO World Tour, because that was the one that was almost similar because it was also made by Aki.
Yeah.
And then we also played WrestleMania 2000, so we did that too. But out of all that stuff, like we were watching WCW, WWF, and then on top of that, we used to watch ECW because we used to get some of the videotapes that we used to pass around, and we would watch with all of our friends every Wednesday, if I'm correct. That like the Wednesday or Thursday we used to watch them. So this was before SmackDown came out. This is when Raw still had the big letters and Sabu jumped off of them, and so it was like all that. Like I watched all that, but yeah, I used to have a couple of wrestlers I liked. Goldberg is one of my favorites. I know he doesn't have a good name nowadays, but you know, Goldberg was my favorite because he used to beat everyone up all the time, and Stone Cold, but I used to like a lot of the odd people too. So like I don't know if you remember these guys, but the Mean Street Posse was like one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I also like the Oddities because that was again the Insane Clown Posse.
Insane Clown
And
Posse,
then
yes.
I also did like Right to Censor because
Oh,
I thought it was
yeah.
funny.
Oh my goodness. Right,
And
RTC.
Yep.
then when I was a kid, because I liked Trish Stratus, I liked TNA, which was Test and Albert at the time.
Test
Yes.
Albert.
So I like all like the odd people, which is really funny. Like the Boogeyman. I think the Boogeyman was amazing, even though it was a joke. And like, because what happened was that's a whole different story in itself. But but yes, that was like basically my knowledge with it. But I used to watch everything, and then I used to even watch indie wrestling too, like New Japan. Well, New Japan's not really indie, but for America it was.
Yeah.
And that's it really. So yeah.
Yep. All right. Jeremy?
What was the question?
The question okay. The question was, were you watching either WWF or WCW programming throughout the Monday Night Wars?
No, but so allow me to explain. So I actually did not like wrestling at all. Like I thought it was the FAKE word for the longest time. I really did. And because I was brought up in a household where it was frowned upon heavily. My father watched the like Sunday morning shows with oh my gosh, Bruno Sammartino. Anytime they aired it on, you know, the local channels or whatever, that's what he would watch, like Pedro Morales and all those guys, Tito, you know, what I'm talking about.
Santana.
Right, yeah. So all those guys he knew, right? So he was like, then the whole steroid thing came along, and he's like, "You're not watching this. You're not touching this. Like it's garbage, whatever." He has since changed his tune a little bit, but I actually started watching when my friend from this beat club that I used to go to when I was a kid, they turned me on to it because it was the premiere episode of SmackDown. And I was like, all right, I'll just be a good friend and watch. And we're sitting in that cabana, and it was the episode where whose dog was eaten or something.
Oh no! I remember. I know you're talking. It was
that
Al,
like the
Al
Big
Snow.
Boss Man?
No,
Yeah,
so it was-
Oh,
yeah.
Big Boss
Al
Man.
Snow's
Yeah,
dog.
so I saw this and I'm thinking to myself, like, I couldn't quite comprehend what I was witnessing. And I thought to myself, that's horrifying. But then again, I'm like 14 and like my bloodlust is like, you know, raging with my hormones. And I'm going, oh, this is pro wrestling? Like, I couldn't comprehend it. And I thought to myself, this is drama. And I'm studying acting. You know what I mean? Like I'm a performer, I'm an entertainer, and I'm like, what have I been missing? So I wasn't allowed to watch Monday Night Raw because the cable box was in the living room, but UPN had SmackDown. So I watched SmackDown starting from around, when did SmackDown premiere? 99?
99.
Yeah.
So I would
99,
say
yeah.
I kind of watched here and there SmackDown around 99, 2000, but I really started heavily watching around late 2000 into 2001, around the time when WCW got bought out and WrestleMania 17 was around the corner.
Oh yeah.
So that's when I really started watching. So I actually had to do a lot of homework. And I had friends who I grew up with in the neighborhood who made me, or at least at the time, forced me to listen to WWF Volume 3, Volume 4. And then I finally bit the bullet and bought Volume 5 for my own sake. And then I bought the anthology. So I got to listen to all the music. So
All the
through
music.
the music, I got to learn wrestlers' names. And at this point, the internet was becoming more than just dial-up, and you could watch like old, very terribly poor quality videos on like, you know, corners of the internet of old matches. So that's actually how I got into learning about the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars and learning about all these things. And the WWF was big on nostalgia, and they still are to a point. You know, they can't go back like they used to when what's his face was still around, but I digress. So that ethos of nostalgia, my own ears are ringing. So they showed all of those classic moments, and that's how I did my homework. So in 2014, when the WWE Network put out the Monday Night Wars, that's when I really got the full scope of what was going on at that time. And my little teenage mind was able to put all that together in a cohesive manner. So I started watching heavily around the buyout, which is crazy how I entered like after that and into the Ruthless Aggression era.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
All right.
Yep.
That's
You
pretty
came
good.
around like such a weird time because it was a good time because there was a lot of stuff still going on,
Yep.
but it was weird because now everything was centralized into one show instead.
It was.
It was
Yeah, and there was a bevy of wrestlers that they just didn't know what to do with. That's why they had to split and do the draft and you know
the brand
all
split,
that.
yeah.
Right.
Brand
So
split.
during like those 2 years where I watched and then I went to college, I didn't have television in college for the first 3 years. So I only got stuff from the Ruthless Aggression era through what I saw on WWE.com and what I saw on forums and fantasy wrestling sites that I actually like know. My one of my best friends was part of the Nash Fantasy Wrestling or whatever that was.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
he did a lot of like, stuff for that where you like, do fan matches and fan characters and whatever. So that's
lot of
also how
events,
I got
yeah.
into it. Yeah. So fan site wrestling things or whatever. So around 2006 is when my roommate at the time in college actually had cable. And so I started to pick it up and watch it again. So I had this like 2.5 year span of heavily watching and then 3 years of only finding out what was going on. And then I picked up momentum from my senior year of college on.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
So I've been in and out when it comes to wrestling until like the late 90s. My dad was a huge wrestling fan. But he mainly preferred WCW over WWF. My mom was not a wrestling fan, but she was surrounded with wrestling fans growing up, like when she was like a teenager to a young adult, around the time when Bruno Sammartino was the most dominant champion in the WWF.
All right.
And my mom loved Pedro Morales. She loved but she wasn't really like hardcore in the wrestling, but she just loved Pedro Morales because he's Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
And I remember my uncles were huge wrestling fans. Especially like my youngest uncle, like he used to be a huge diehard WWF fan back in the day. And what I remember is like he used to bring home some tapes every now and then. Like he would bring home tapes for WWF or WCW. He even had some ECW tapes from like
Yes.
1998. Like a couple of their pay-per-views or some of their live shows. He would have tapes. But I didn't get to watch it a lot because he didn't really have as many. But when he would bring them, they were special because this was how I first watched SummerSlam 98. Like he had the whole thing. So I watched SummerSlam 98.
Oh wow. Okay.
But it was like a genuine, like, because I was in it, like, because I watch, I would see it, like, I would change channels and I would see wrestling. I would see Bret Hart was like the first person I've seen. And this was around the time where like he was still like he was coming up. He was becoming he was on his way to become the WWF champion before he dropped into Yokozuna. Hulk Hogan was still there. Macho Man was still there, but Macho Man was more regulated towards like commentary at the time. Hulk Hogan was clearly on his way out because like they wanted to start pushing newer wrestlers,
Younger talent.
Yes. And I had no idea that this was around the time where there was so many accusations about steroids. I had no idea. Not until later. And what I remember was back around like 96. My cousin came over and he put on WCW, and it was around the time when Diesel and Razor Ramon were in WCW, but as Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and it was just surreal to see like wrestlers who came from the WWF to WCW. Like you'd think that they would have been like they're top stars. You'd think they would have stayed in the WWF for a long time, but nope. They went to WCW because they got a better deal from WCW, which once they lost those two. It's like the trajectory of when they lost those two stars, that's when they're like, oh shit, we really got to start making some stars. So they decided to start working on stars like the Stalker, the Goon, Who. For context, the wrestler,
I remember that.
The wrestler named Who is basically Jim the Anvil Neidhart wearing a mask, and it was an excuse for both Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler to make a bunch of Abbott and Costello jokes. That was the whole point. And
if we needed the context.
Yeah. But anyway, then again at the same time, this was the same company that gave us Duke the Dumpster Drosy. Which
Yes.
fuck that guy, by the way.
Repo Man.
the Repo Man, Skinner,
The Brooklyn Brawler.
the Brooklyn
Brawler.
The Brooklyn Brawler, Fantasio. Okay, so Fantasio, there was a wrestler named Fantasio who he had one match and then he did the biggest disappearing act because after that he was never seen in the WWF ring ever again.
Yeah.
What about the Renegade?
Oh
Knuckleball
god! Oh god! The
Schwartz.
Renegade. Yeah, because they were teasing, making people believe that Ultimate Warrior was going to WCW, but then you knew that the moment Hulk Hogan was like, "This is not the Ultimate Warrior," that killed everything.
That was so
Yeah.
funny.
And then Ultimate Warrior went back to WWF in '96, and
Yes.
He did.
And the biggest moment he had was no selling the pedigree and completely like squashing Triple H.
You know what's funny about the Renegade too is one of the last matches he had, he got beaten up by the Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart. in the camera, he goes, "He's nothing. He's just Rick." That's it.
Yep.
It was amazing.
He's just Rick.
Just Rick.
And I also so I really got into it like in like late '97, early '98 was when like I was watching WCW and I was also watching WWF back and forth. And the one thing that stood out, I remember like I just randomly like I was watching WCW a little more, and then when I watched WWF, the first thing I seen was when was the debut of fucking Val Venus. Fuck that guy, by the
Let's
way.
go.
Jeez.
But like, I remember like watching Raw, watching like because because I really wanted to get into watching Stone Cold Steve Austin. Because in addition to NWO t-shirts, I would also see Austin 316 t-shirts.
Austin 316.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
What was your favorite part of Val Venus's entrance? Was it the flower blooming or the train going through the mountain?
Oh my god.
Nothing beats the whole choppy yo PP.
Yes. With tie and
Yes.
tie.
The Kai and tie thing, but also
Tie and tie.
yeah.
Oh
but
my god.
but what I remember was like back in the day, there were so many jokes and puns, like a lot of tongue in cheek stuff that just went way over my head.
Yo, Godfather in the hose. Let's go.
No, yeah, same, exactly.
You go over my head.
I remember watching a lot of Raw around this time, watching a lot of Nitro. Just the difference in the product. Like Nitro was more family friendly, while Raw was becoming more raunchy and more adult oriented. What I remember as well was there were two particular feuds that there are two particular feuds I want to bring up within WCW that I'll get to more later on, but both of them involve Eric Bischoff. It was actually no, both of them one of them is Eric Bischoff, the other one was Dennis Rodman. Like Dennis Rodman and Hulk Hogan teamed up to face against Karl Malone
and DDP.
And then DDP was also in the other feud where it was Hogan and Bischoff versus DDP and Jay Leno. Of all people, Jay Leno.
Yes.
Yeah, that did happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Train wreck.
But yeah, I've watched, and we got Sting as well. Like Sting would appear a lot. I remember we got the Surfer Sting, and then eventually he became the Crow Sting. So
Crow Sting.
Yes. All right. So, but I've watched a lot of WWF and WCW like throughout the Monday Night Wars up until like when the Monday Night Wars ended. But now my next question, and I'll start with Yoshils on this. Which wrestlers stood out to you the most from this era of wrestling, both from WWF and WCW mainly.
Damn. All right. So this is a bad question to ask me because, as you know, I know a lot of the random ones too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Let's dig deep. Let's go.
Here we go.
all right. So, the ones that stand. Okay. So I have a question for you. What do you mean by stand out? Like stand out isn't it someone I like? Or something that was like odd, or something that people liked, unless you is my own interpretation.
All of the above.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll give you a perfect example, and this always makes me laugh. So I liked Conan. You know who Conan is from
Yes.
WCW,
I do
right?
know Conan,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
He was from the Mexican Mafia, basically. That was like his group. And funny enough, Rey Mysterio, which at the time he was still Rey Mysterio, but he didn't have a mask on at the time when he used to wrestle.
Babyface.
So he was part of this group. So the one thing that stood out to me when I was a kid, because I didn't understand what it meant until I was told, Conan used to tell people to toss his salad and peel his potatoes.
He
So-
did do that. Didn't he?
I
He did,
forgot
I
about
swear to
that.
God.
I
So
forgot.
that was one of the things.
Innuendo, shock television.
It was like
Yeah.
New.
Now you said WWF was the one that had a lot of that stuff. That was on WCW. That was the
Yes.
first thing. Second of all, Scott Steiner. Half of the stuff he said was definitely stuff that I remember. Like he was the Purple Warrior for some reason. So he
Oh my
came out
goodness.
in like a purple jacket and a purple hat with a bunch of hose around him, and he
Yeah.
goes, "I am the Purple Warrior," and this was the only time he would wear purple. So I don't know where that came from. So that stood out. That was also on WCW. And then,
Mhm.
so like that's like the weird stuff that stood out. The kind type, choppy choppy your pee and the Indeed that they did.
Yep.
Like if you want to talk about like actual stuff that stood out, like actual real stuff that stood out. So that would be like WrestleMania 13
Mhm.
has my favorite match of all time. And this is what really got me into like a big fan of wrestling. It was a match, and I'm sure you guys know it the second I say these two wrestlers. It's going to be Bret Hart
And Stone Cold
and
Steve
Stone Cold
Austin.
Steve Austin.
So Steve Austin. Yeah.
So I know recently they did like a top 100 matches thing, but this is before that. Like I was big into this match. This was a submission match that they did. It was no DQ. If you've never seen this match, you have to see this match. It's like the most amazing, like technical, non-technical match ever. Stone Cold is the bad guy. He's wearing an earring. So this is bad guy, bad daddy Stone Cold versus whiny Bret Hart, which was also a bad guy at the time. So it was two bad guys fighting each other. This was also the entrance that always stands out to me with Stone Cold, where at the entrance, the glass breaks, and he actually pushes the glass with his shoulder that it doesn't break all the way. So he pushed it with the shoulder, and it was a sick look.
Yes.
He's like, get out of
And
the way.
then this is also the match where Stone Cold gets the Crimson Mask, which is the red face because of all the blood.
Yeah.
And
He
on
lost.
top of that, Ken Shamrock is the special guest referee. That some people forget that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
He was.
He was.
And it was the first time that he was actually in WWF. This is before he started wrestling because he won in UFC. He was the first UFC wrestler to actually win the title. So when he came to WWF, that's what he was known for. He wasn't known for wrestling. He was known for UFC.
Yep.
Tough
So-
as planet. or the
It was
most
a
dangerous man
lot
on the
that-
planet.
Yeah. Like he was literally the baddest man on the planet at that time until Mike Tyson went into
Until Mike
WWF
Tyson.
too.
Yeah.
Which was also a great match because it was Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels, but Triple H was with them, China was with them, and Mike Tyson was the special guest referee. I think this was the WrestleMania that was like 2 years after. It was before 17. I know that for a fact. So I think it was 15, if I want to remember correctly. But that one match definitely stood out. Wrestler wise, the people that stand out is a lot of people in the Attitude Era because everybody had their own gimmick.
Yep.
So, like, for example, like you were talking before about, so the part you were mentioning about the dog being eaten was when Al Snow went to a hotel room because Big Boss Man was like, "Oh, come on, we gotta be friends." Makes him eat the food. It happens to be his dog.
Can't believe that was my first.
That was your first time.
Now, the crazy part is I actually remember all that because I remember who it was, what it happened to, and the dog's name, which was Pepper.
Yes, Pepper.
Yeah, right.
And then the crazy part, that was not the worst thing that Big Boss Man did. Because the worst thing that he did was that he went to Big Show's daddy's funeral, took his truck, tied the chain to the back of his truck to the casket, and then Big Show rode the casket on top while he was driving
around.
I remember.
off.
Yep.
Oh my
This is the
goodness.
greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And that's not even including like the beer bath that Vince and Shane and The Rock got from Stone Cold.
Yep.
If you want to talk a little bit later, Kurt Angle did the same thing with the milk on Undertaker, if I'm correct.
Yeah, the ministry, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then also when The Rock was at the bridge and he called it the Rudy Poo Bridge.
I remember.
And then Stone Cold went to meet him. And then before The Rock pulls him like off the bridge, and then Stone Cold's hanging on, he goes, "Go to hell!" And then he
Go to
pushes
hell.
him in
He's
the face.
Well-
just kicks him.
Well,
And then The Rock, Stone Cold falls off the bridge, and then he takes the belt. He goes, "And then take this piece of crap with you."
Well-
He throws it so hard.
well, about that, because it was actually a callback to late '97, where The Rock was the Intercontinental Champion around this time, and he was feuding with Stone Cold, and Stone Cold threw the
Right.
Intercontinental Championship off that same exact bridge.
Yeah,
Yes, that was
it was a
so-
callback.
Yes.
Into that dirty water. Oh my God.
And the crazy part is that was the Smoking Skull belt. But at the time, what the part you're talking about was The Rock when he was with the Nation,
Yeah.
when he overtook Farouk.
Right.
And then the other thing that I remember, there's only one more match I want to talk about. I don't know if anybody's going to remember it because I think it was on a random Raw, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
It was Bob Holly versus Al Snow, and they went to the Mississippi River, and they yeah, you guys are nodding the second I said it. Yeah,
I know it. Yep, I know it.
Oh my
Gross.
goodness.
bro, that match is crazy.
Yep.
That's a great match. Like if anybody never seen that, you gotta see that.
Yeah.
It's sick.
Yeah.
All right, I think I took enough time. So yeah, that's like all my moments I can remember off the top of my head right now. There's more, but I don't want to take up too much time. And I'm sure you guys want to talk about stuff
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So no, because we were still technically doing like wrestlers that stood out to us. Like the moments was gonna come up afterwards, but it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jeremy, which wrestler stood out to you from this era of wrestling?
Yeah. Okay. So again, I didn't really get to watch, as it was happening, but as I started to do a lot of my research, I really came to like a lot of the cruiserweights. I liked to watch Rey Mysterio Jr., Eddie Guerrero,
Yeah.
Dean Malenko. Like those guys were just really cool for me. I liked watching the fast, high flying action stuff because I'm a little guy. Like for those of you who can't tell from my stature, I'm 5'4". So I was a little kid. I still am. So a lot of the cruiserweights and I guess what transpired into the light heavyweight championship for a brief period of time, those were a lot of the people that I liked to watch and concentrate on.
Yeah.
Again, at one point I was like, "Oh, the 1, 2, 3 Kid," and then I realized it was X-Pac, and I'm like, "Nope,
Yeah.
X-Pac Heat. Sorry, no, I'm not giving you any. I think you will have credit, sorry." But who else stood out to me during that time? A couple of people did. I enjoyed like the bigger matches. I enjoyed watching I mean, if anybody can remember a match with Triple H, that's just his foil in life, I guess. Triple H's matches were pretty good. I liked watching I remember WrestleMania 15 because I rented it after I started watching, and I was like, "Oh, this is a WrestleMania from like 2 years ago at the time. Why don't I just like kind of watch back and see The Rock versus Stone Cold first? Because they had the 3 in subsequent.
Yeah.
So I watched that, and The butterbean boxing match. I was like,
Yeah.
Oh no, the
Oh my
brawl for
God.
I felt so bad for the people who bought that ticket. I'm like, no way. Oh no. So that was the first time I realized, oh, maybe things like that don't quite work in a wrestling world. I always liked Jericho. Jericho was like one of the guys that I liked to watch just because he at the time just brought a lot of creativity to the table. I remember watching the list of 1,000 moves.
Yes.
Yes.
Number one, arm bar.
Armbar.
Number two, arm drag.
Drag.
And then it would cut to commercial. And during the commercial break, he would say terrible things about whatever town or city they were in. So by the time the commercial break was over, the crowd was heavily booing him. And then he would be like, number 482, arm
I remember that.
That's so good.
Number 109, the Saskatchewan stretcher. Like,
Yeah,
I'm like, he's making stuff up like on the fly.
What I remember about
And
that
then-
segment was towards
got all
the,
over my television.
like towards the end of that segment, like there was a wrestler that came out. I think it was Prince Ikea. He just came in and ripped the whole like 1,004 holes.
He showed up to the list.
You ripped it up? Yeah. So Jericho, I was big on Jericho. I was big on The Rock. I really enjoyed The Rock. I knew from watching him, like as a trained performer, that he was gonna go places, and I was right. Look at the guy now.
Yep.
So him, I mean, I love watching Trish Stratus just because I liked watching Trish Stratus, but I won't go any further, just
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
well, I mean, it was the time, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
Yep.
now I'm married with 2 kids, I gotta be careful. So it's
She had the key to the city, so it's all right.
yeah. Jericho, I was big on watching. I thought that Rikishi was a lot of fun to watch.
Yes.
I met Mick Foley. I had the opportunity to meet Mick Foley.
Oh, nice.
Very nice guy. Because if I may divert for a moment, my friend Josh Adams drew his Miserable Christmas book that they put out years ago.
Oh, wow.
My buddy Josh Adams. I like to call him Pulitzer Prize winner Josh Adams. He's gonna hate me for doing that. But yeah, so my friend Josh drew his book, so I got to meet him and get a signed copy from the both of them that day, which was really cool. And my friend Chris, who is like, that's our mutual, my friend Chris is like one of my best friends in my life, and that's how I got to meet a lot of these different people, like Christopher Daniels. I got to meet through him as well, and I got to meet Jerry the King Lawler at Josh Adams' wedding. Guy Josh Adams is the son of legendary Marvel and DC comic artist Neil Adams, who has since sadly passed. So I got to meet Jerry Lawler at his wedding because I DJ'd it and was a gift because Josh's wife is of Japanese descent. So in the Japanese culture, they have to give a gift to the male partner on the day of the wedding. So I got to dress up as Super Mario and dance to Weird Al Yankovic's White and Nerdy. And Jerry the King Lawler was there, so I can actually say that I danced before a king.
Oh, wow.
Not so cool.
I enjoyed JR Jim Ross's commentary. There was just no question, nothing like it. He knew how to call the spots. The guy was so smart on the mic. He was sharp as a tack. I mean, he is actually the reason why I stayed engaged in a lot of those matches, just learning about how wrestling worked and how the product worked. I credit JR for keeping me enticed. So if not for a wrestler's sake, a performer's sake, so But yeah, Undertaker was always so enticing. That whole corporate ministry thing with the Brood and Edge and Christian. I loved when they did the whole for the benefit of those with flash photography, which is you'll never hear nowadays. But yeah, they were just a lot of fun to watch, and the Hardys were, and all 3 of them when they did the TLC matches. Yeah, that whole faction was just so compelling that you didn't quite know what they were going to do next, and that's where the product shot through the roof for me. So yeah, those are just a handful of people, and I mean, if we're talking about the tail end of the Attitude Era, Kurt Angle was so much fun to watch because he just made a character, and he made it goofy, and it was just fun, you know.
Exactly.
Like it was really where I started to understand that wrestling wasn't just about wrestling; it was about entertainment. And how the more I trained in acting, the more I found an appreciation for what they were doing and what they were kind of attempting to do at the time. So yeah, that's just a handful of people who I really liked and enjoyed watching. And I was always terrified of the Boogeyman.
Oh.
And Shane McMahon became my boy.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
you kidding me? With the kendo stick to the back and dropping off the Titantron, I was like, this guy, he wants to make a name. So yeah, Shane McMahon actually got really close to the top of my list in just terms of match performance. You know,
That
he
was
really-
during
he
that.
really
That was
did.
Mhm.
Yeah,
that was
Backlash.
Backlash.
That's right. And actually,
Yeah.
my hip hop name is Germo Mac, based off of Shane McMahon.
Oh,
That is
Really?
my hip hop name.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm putting
Wow.
out new music soon, so I'm very excited. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all
there you
coming.
go.
It's all coming full circle before 40.
It really
Yeah,
is, yes.
absolutely.
Anyway, I don't want to. I
Awesome.
don't want to go too far. You know.
Oh, you
All right.
good?
All right,
Yeah.
you're good. All right, Silver.
All right, for me, and like again, like a lot of crossover here. Like again, like Kurt Angle was definitely one of my later favorites. Again, the idea of like having a goofy character, you know, the birth of the "you sucks" because of Edge. Like, like I remember like that very well, that whole like feud very well of Edge and Kurt Angle, you know, falling out because like, funny enough, like a lot of my catch up with the Attitude was actually because when I was living in Jamaica as a kid, like you know, but we got a cable hookup in, I think I want to say 2005, 2006. There was one time I was out from school for like a week. I think I had like dengue fever. Like it was like all around. I was able to stay home for a week and basically like just like do whatever, you know, watch, you know, Maury or whatever, whatever was on. And then I flipped to this channel where it's basically replaying at least like between like a lot of like 97 through like 99 like events, like a lot of the pay-per-views and stuff like that. So I was watching these things like basically like on repeat. So a lot of like Edge and Christian matches I remember seeing, the Dudley Boys. I did see TLC 1 and 2 like many times. Like those are great matches.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, like for me, I was very big on tag teams actually during the Attitude Era. Like now I can think about it, like tag teams and stables were like a big thing because like, you know, big grouping, everyone was like, you know, shared goals. Like, you know, again with DX the crouch chops. You know, anytime I saw like, you know, like green flashing and anything like an X's in the air, I'm like, all right, there's DX. Like, you know, it's gonna be a riot basically every time they're on screen because like, you know, they're gonna do something that's like outlandish and it's gonna be like, you know, getting WWF in trouble basically because of standards practices.
Standards and practices.
Practices.
Good old Vince Russo's evil mortal enemy.
My goodness. I remember like watching like the Oval Office address that Shawn Michaels did like way down the line.
Yep.
And where like they go through like they take they got a letter from USA Stand President. It's like, hey, you can't say these words, you can't do this, you can't be on during these.
We will not say this.
We will
anymore.
not say this anymore. And then like Triple H, like I don't know how China was able to say like stoneface throughout the entirety of that, but like she was just there, just like mean mugging, just like looking at them, and man, you know,
her nostrils were flailing a lot.
they were playing a little bit.
That was probably her way of like withholding laughter.
And then I'll always repeat is like, you know, I always like say this like just like I was like a vocal stim was like, you know, as a matter of fact, I was up all night, and I was always like that was crazy. DX was like my favorite, especially Shawn Michaels and Triple H, you know, specifically. I did like X-Pac, like X-Pac was rowdy. Never liked the X Factor though, I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of a weird stable. And then of course, oh, you didn't know?
Nah.
Oh wow.
Yo, that's better call somebody. God. Like,
wait! We have to stop now that you've done it. Now I'm going into my Eric Cartman of Sticks Come Sail Away. I have to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, D Generation X proudly brings to you the tag team champions of the world, the Road Dogg Jesse James, the Badass Billy Gunn, the New Age Outlaws. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Suck it.
Sorry. Okay.
No. Honestly, thank you for that, because like for me, like looking back, the NAO were like basically like a typical way of like, hey, you may not be like the top of the card, you may not be the undercard, but you were like, if you were like over, like you were over. Like there are times where I watched back like their entrances. Not a single person in the audience did not know the intro. Like I saw like kids, adults, old ladies, like saying it verbatim.
Yeah,
like it was amazing to see like that how like caught on. Like they had them in the palm of their hands. Like it was simple because like funny that they were bad guys, but they were so cool that you couldn't like they were undeniable basically. Like I loved watching like their run to the top. Like they like initially again they were 2 separate like wrestlers, and then they came together and they had that energy. And then like when they did the intros and stuff like that, like again like really got over with me like as a kid. And like whenever I hear that riff and I'm like, oh, there it is. Like immediately I'm thinking of it. Like on the WWF side, like the New Age Outlaws were like over with me. Them and Too Cool, the dancing and everything. Like oh my god, the worm was like basically like the best like move ever to me as a kid. Like I like granted like for wrestling so you have to like really have like that sense of disbelief that because the worm on the outside doesn't look like doesn't anything, but like when you do that whole theatrics WORM, I'm like it's like awesome, like they're selling that and it's great. And then on WWE side, of course, the DDP was always like great. The self high five. The diamond.
That's right, the self high five. Yes.
Yeah. Oh
DDP,
my god,
man, what a great human being.
Honestly, like and like literally like the patron saint of pro wrestling. Like that guy is amazing. I tried DDP yoga. It's phenomenal, by the way. Like really good stuff. And like being able to just watch his career because he was like. Because he was like another element of like, hey, like, he was like older in the business and he's like, hey, I'm like, 34, like, they're not gonna put the world title on me. It's like, and Dusty Rhodes like basically told him like, hey, dude, like if you're like keep working what you're doing, like if you're not here to win the title, then why are you even here in the first place? And like then and the fact that he gets to win the title.
Dusty's one of my favorites of all time.
Absolutely, and like like the Macho Man putting him over as well. That was a big thing, and like and also like with a low-key favorite in WCW, like this Chris Canyon. Just
who been in the canyon? Let's go!
Oh my god, I would always pop for it. Like he just do random like diamond cutters or canyon cutters to anybody, just like randomly. I remember like when the time like he parked, like he got out the car, the freaking canyon cutter the security guard, and then drove off, and I'm like, geez. Oh man, like wrestling was like this like so unhinged and funny.
It was.
But like honestly, this played completely straight. Like those guys are just like great. Like I loved watching just like the chaos of it all. I just love seeing how everything like it seems just so like surreal, but like it just falls away. It's just like, oh, that's just wrestling, on to the next segment. And I'm like, but like yeah, oh my god, like it really like even though like people were like, oh, he's fake, whatever. Like I didn't even care. Like it was just entertaining, you know. That was to me like it was less about like the holds and like the grapples and all that. Like it's about like just creating these characters and like really being larger than life and doing the most outlandish things for entertainment, because obviously we always thought we could kick our boss in the groin and hit him with a stunner at one point, or like just do all the outlandish things. But we can, some things are something has consequence. But in the world of pro wrestling, anything goes. Yeah. That's the fun thing about it.
Absolutely. And that's where the whole kayfabe thing was so on fire back then, because you had the Click do their thing at the Garden, but not a lot of people saw or knew about that event unless you were in the tape trading business. You know what I'm saying? Like, so kayfabe was still a big thing during that whole time. We didn't know what was going on with Vince Russo and WCW towards the tail end. A lot of those people thought that this was all part of the show. They really did think at that time that this was all part of the plan. And later on, when we finally found out that like there were huge falling outs in that side, we then looked at WWF and noticed that they were just trying to self-improve. They weren't in they weren't in the wrestling business. They were into the entertainment industry. Yeah. So they were in two separate like entities of thought. So
Right.
when one got so desperate and got the edge over and tried so hard to just think, what can we do next? What can we do next? What can we do next? Then we look at the other product and you're like, well, this is paced a little bit slower and might not be as big of a shock value in television sensibility in the mid to late 90s, but it just got better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Absolutely.
continuation of just improving upon itself made it worthwhile and made them stand out and kept them going.
Yeah.
Right, like they became like less selfish. Like, granted, everyone wanted to have their spot, but
Yeah,
at the same
less
time,
selfish is good. Yeah.
but at the same time, it's war. It's literally it is literally by all means war. Raw is war. Like they
It
didn't
was,
change anything just for nothing. Like it was like either they're out of business, they're out of business. Like it's survival. It's your job's on the line. You got to know that every week that you come in, it's to like put on like the best show possible, get those ratings. It's all about that, really. Like at the end of the day, like nothing matters more than the ratings.
And then they had to say, Mick's gonna have the title. Flip. Never went back. No one ever went back.
Oh,
That put some butts in the seats.
I'll be talking. I'll be
Right,
talking more
yep.
about that later.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, we go on to the next question, Pete.
Well,
Go ahead, Shell.
it's my turn for my own.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got your turn. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of wrestlers that stood out, I have the most weirdest wrestlers I want to bring up between
Try me.
both the WWF and the WCW. Okay,
Do it.
First and foremost, when I was 12 years old, I did not know what the term Prince Albert actually meant.
Yeah,
I know what it is now. I know now,
I love
but
that.
when
Oh my
I
goodness.
looked it up, and I was like, really, that's what it was? Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
Mhm.
I did not pick up. But what else? One thing I didn't pick up back then that I wish I did, because I know about this thing now. Does anybody remember this wrestler named Beaver Cleavage?
Yes.
Like, jeez.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Beaver
Long
Cleavage.
time ago.
Beaver Cleavage was Mosh from the Headbangers.
Yes.
When Thrasher was injured, they wanted something to do for Mosh, so they decided to have him be a part of this incest angle, which did not even last for like more than 2 weeks. What happened was
Yeah.
that at some point, there was an interview. It was like, I don't want to do this, and then he just became Chaz. And his
Yeah.
kayfabe mother became his kayfabe girlfriend. And then they decided to do this
Right.
whole fucking domestic abuse angle, which was completely stupid that they did that.
Mhm.
Another wrestler that stood out back then in regards to how ridiculous they were. Like, I remember the oddities. There was one in particular. There was one named Golga who
Yes.
Yeah.
and the thing about Golga is he's actually an established wrestler who wore the mask because no one recognized him because he actually lost a lot of weight. There was a wrestler that went by the name of Earthquake back in the day. John
Yes.
Tenta.
John Tenta.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he went to WCW where he was originally Avalanche, but they had to change the name because WWF thought that it was too similar to Earthquake.
Earthquake.
So he became the Shark Attack,
Yes.
which he was infamous for being a member of the Dungeon of Doom.
Yes.
Which Dungeon of Doom had very outlandish gimmicks. Like they had the Yeti, they had the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan. And don't get me started on this wrestler named Edward Leslie, who used to be known as Brutus the Barber Beefcake in the WWF.
Oh yeah.
In WCW, he had so many names. He was Brother Brutai. He was the Disciple. He was the Zodiac.
That's what he was in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think
Right.
he was also the booty man and all that. Like he had so many gimmicks. So many weird gimmicks back then. But the Disciple was basically when he was in the NWO, and he was abducted by the Ultimate Warrior, where he was the only member alongside the Warrior as part of the One Warrior Nation.
Well,
Mm.
the reason why he had so many gimmicks in WCW was because he was a friend of Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan had him under contract like that.
Exactly.
So that's why,
Yeah.
and if you ever noticed, anything that he did was always with Hulk Hogan.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
why he was the Zodiac when he was in the Dungeon of Doom, and that's why he was with the Ultimate Warrior when they were fighting Hulk Hogan. So he got it very easy. So that's why he was like that.
another
Yeah.
another wrestler that stood out for the wrong reasons. WCW because WWF had some MMA wrestlers, like they had Dan the Beast Severn, they had
Dan Severn.
Ken Shamrock, and they
Yep.
and they also had WWF also had one wrestler that I personally think is amazing because of how he actually gels well in the ring, but he has the most ridiculous promos. The Lethal Weapon Steve Blackman.
Steve Blackman.
Yeah, Steve
The-
Blackman.
The head
man.
the head of the motherfuck dojo. For anyone that
Yeah.
watched
The one that,
Real
that- the
War.
one that hit Shane McMahon with the kendo stick.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
the
right.
candlestick, yeah.
Yes. I was
Yes.
like, why can't I remember this guy's name?
And
Yes.
Yeah,
but-
that was
So
Steve Blackman.
in response, WCW decided to bring in their own MMA martial artists to the company, and that would be Tank Abbott.
Yes.
Yeah, they did do that,
Like,
didn't they?
At one point,
Don't sound, don't
Vince,
sound disappointed.
Vince Russo wanted to give Tank Abbott the WCW championship.
Yeah.
And he actually
I remember that.
and he was actually sent home because of that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But what the moment that killed Tank Abbott in WCW was when they decided to put him as make him the fanboy of 3 Count. So 3 Count was a boy band group.
Yeah.
I know Shane Helms was on that group. I forgot who.
Shane Helms.
Shannon
Shannon
Moore.
Moore was like one of them.
And I forgot
Yes.
I forgot who was the third man. So 3 Count, because they were capitalizing on the popularity of boy bands like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. So
Yeah.
they wanted to have a gimmick where they were capitalizing on that. Ever Courageous was the other person, but then what happened was they turned on Tank Abbott, and then right after they turned on Tank Abbott was released from WCW.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there was also the Misfits in Action, which they had different wrestlers. Like Booker T was part of that group.
Yep.
As GI Bro. That was actually
G.I. Bro.
that was his old
Yeah, right.
that was his old gimmick before he joined WCW, mind you. But there was one wrestler who I personally think is a piece of shit that stood out. And his name is Bill DeMott. He wrestled as Hugh Morris. Which was a Dungeon of Doom gimmick actually. But when he was part of the Misfits in Action, he was General Erection.
Yes.
Oh, right. Huge erection.
Huge Erection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn. That was his name.
Yes. I just couldn't believe they got away with a lot of these names. Both WWF and WCW got away with way too much.
Because I remember GI Bro, I remember General Erection, and there was also like Major Guns, like the chick that was part of the Misfits.
And WWF, there was someone who she wasn't really a wrestler, but she was a personality for a while. Barbara Bush. And
Barbara Bush.
and the reason
Oh.
and the reason for that is because they used the initials BB.
Oh,
my gosh.
Yeah.
all right.
Actually,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But then there was this one guy named Just Joe who, back in 2000, he was the guy that was spreading a lot of rumors and trying to stir the pot. He was there for a little bit in the mid 2000s, go into WWF, just going backstage telling people, oh, I heard a rumor about such and such wrestler or that such and such, trying to turn a lot of wrestlers against each other. But it didn't go that far because it wasn't catching on. They would just release them afterwards.
Yeah.
But one other thing I want to bring up was the going back to Kai and Tai but it was around the time where the group was reduced to just Taka Michinoku and Funaki. And,
Yes.
And it was just both of them they went from a faction to a tag team. and
Indeed.
they would speak, but somebody would dub their voice, and I've always thought that the
Oh
person
my god.
I've always thought that the person that was dubbing their voice was Shane McMahon because it sounded like Shane.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it sounded like him, didn't it?
It sounded,
did a little bit.
it sounded
Oh my
exactly like
goodness.
Shane.
Funaki, SmackDown #1 announcer.
Yes.
No answer. Like,
Yeah.
indeed.
I just found that to be amazing. But in terms of, but go ahead.
There was one person I forgot to mention before that I liked. Do you remember Buff Bagwell, who also teamed with Scott Steiner?
Yes.
Buffy.
So
Buffy
he
got
was
the stuff.
also yes, Buff is the stuff, and he used to do the skip move before he flexed.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. So I love them together. But then, if you remember, I forget who the other member was, and this is very rare for me to forget because I like the team. Do you guys remember the American Males?
Yes.
American Males.
Scotty
Yeah.
Riggs and Buff Bagwell.
Yes. Right. So that was before Scott Steiner came in because then him and his brother separated at the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that in because I forgot. And then if we're gonna mention just a random person, I don't know if you guys remember Simon the Virus.
I do remember Simon the Virus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you don't know who that is?
I know.
I don't remember exactly.
Oh, so he was in WCW because he was basically like supposed to be the television network telling people like, oh, what to do.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't wrestle here. Oh, you can't have the title, whatever. So he's like the Joe character. So that's what he was
okay.
there.
Okay.
There was also a manager who originally managed the Acolytes. His name was the Jackal.
Yes.
That's for those who don't know who the Jackal is, that's Don Callis.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Wait. He was also Cyrus the Virus too, wasn't
I think I think he might have been, because
Yeah.
and he was also in ECW where like he was the
I mean, that's right. Simon Virus. He was in WCW.
he was a representative of
the network?
TNN, the national network.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I made my mistake. It wasn't WCW. It was ECW.
No problem.
Yeah. So he came in and he was just like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, and everybody used to beat him up basically. So
Yeah, basically. They took it out of him because, like, you know, they didn't like network as much. Especially with when they eventually got Raw on TNN.
yeah. Get us off the air.
Yeah.
How dare you throw us off the air?
Yes.
That was crazy during that time too.
Heyman was like, granted, like, you know, props to him for being like the guy who's like really, you know, all about this brand, considering like what happened later on. But like he was like just honest. I was like, I dare you guys throw us off the network. Like, yeah, you know, why even, you know, crazy.
But there is one tag team I do want to, because like I could go on and on with like my favorite wrestlers all day. Like obviously like back then I loved Stone Cold, The Rock, Jericho, the Dudley Boys, Hardys, Lita, Trish Stratus, Chyna, McFoley. Like there's so many wrestlers in WWF I love, and WCW had like Diamond Dallas Page. They had like I was always a huge fan of Scott Hall, like even back when he was Razor Ramon.
Hey yo.
Say hello to Razor Ramon. Kevin Nash.
The bad guy.
I could go
Super
on.
Shredder.
Yes, he was Super Shredder. But there is a tag team I do want to talk about. Does anyone remember the tag team Public Enemy?
Yeah.
Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge.
And Beady Grunge.
Oh yeah.
They mainly had their start at ECW. And in '97, they had the chance to jump between WWF and WCW, and they chose WCW because they paid more money. And and this would actually help come back to bite their ass later on. I'll get to them.
Yep.
But they wrestled in WCW for 2 years. Then they went back to ECW briefly to put. They were supposed to have some matches with the Dudleys.
Yes.
And what happened was they beat the Dudleys in the first match, and then the Dudleys beat them in the second. However, I believe it was Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock. It was both of them. They both no-sold the 3D.
Yes. Yep.
And that pissed both the Dudleys off, but it really pissed off Bubba Ray Dudley more.
Yeah. Mama did
And
not like them.
you do, and yeah, it got to the point where they were not allowed to be in ECW ever again. So they went to the WWF, and the biggest karma they ever had was a taping of Sunday Night Heat where they faced against the Acolytes, and the Acolytes beat the living
Beat
shit
the
out of them.
piss out of them. Oh my goodness.
You can find it on YouTube. It's still on YouTube. You can find it, and it was not. It wasn't even a match. It was a massacre. Like they destroyed Public Enemy because Public Enemy was growing a huge ego. They think that they're the best tag team in the world, and the thing is, they very well were in ECW. They could have actually had a pretty solid run in the WWF if it wasn't for their ego, but because what happened, what led them there was it was a tables match, and they did not want to be the ones to go over the tables, but they wanted the Acolytes to win the match.
Oh my gosh! 4 minutes they decimated them.
4 minutes.
Four decimating minutes.
Terrible.
And Ron Simmons, who went by Farouk at the time, was like, "Oh, if they don't want to go to the tables, we're gonna bring the tables to them."
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did
right now. And Farouk is just
tearing into them.
Yeah.
Yes, he was destroying him. Like it was
the definition of a shoot match.
Yes,
because they literally actually like punched him like bad. It was bad.
Yeah,
he actually. I think one Bradshaw clotheslined him so hard that like it almost knocked him out. It was
I just saw it. That's why I went. Oh,
So
like clothesline from hell.
Blocked him.
And then they had a few more matches, and then they left the WWF. They briefly went back to WCW, but because of all that kind of made the Dudleys concerned when they made the jump to the WWF around like a few months later, and backstage, like the people gave them the reputation as like the tag team that was going to be worse than the Public Enemy. So when they debuted, they had to hit a couple of tag teams, including the Acolytes, with 2x4s. Yes. So they hit the Acolytes with 2x4s, and then the next and then that was on SmackDown when they made their debut, and then the next night that they showed up, which was on Raw, what happened was there was an interview that I believe was either Michael Cole or Kevin Kelly interviewed the Dudleys, and all of a sudden the Acolytes beat the living crap out of them, but afterwards they became good friends backstage, and the Dudleys would go on to become one of the greatest tag teams ever. So and I'm like, in my mind, Public Enemy, that could have been you, but
it could have
been them. They have ego.
But they weren't as good though, to be honest with you. Like if you watch ECW, like even then, the Dudley Boys were a better tag team than them. The Public Enemy had a good gimmick, but it only worked in ECW because it was just a stupid gimmick with people just waving their hands.
Yes.
Yeah. It was raucous and violent, and like again, like granted, you could be good in ECW and like get over, but also like you can have like nothing really in ECW going for you, but like also just be over with the audience in some way.
Right.
It's different ponds here. Like for example, like Mike Awesome was like the absolute best in ECW, but then when you start WCW, they gave him all these terrible gimmicks that really like killed his stock basically.
That 70s guy and the fat chick thriller.
The fat chick thriller. Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Like
but
they buried the crap out of him.
And also like there were wrestlers from the tail end of the New Generation era and even in the Attitude era. They like there were so many bodybuilders that just could not wrestle because who loves bodybuilders. So what happened is that
look at all that velocity. Wow.
Like I remember
let's name a show after it.
But there was one in particular that I want to bring up. No one's gonna remember this wrestler because he barely showed up on TV. He went to WWF. Then he was sent to ECW for seasoning, and Paul Heyman could not even find any way to make him work. His name was Brackus.
Yes, I remember Brackus. Yeah,
he was. I think he was like a German or Austrian bodybuilder, and Vince thought that like, hey, I'll make him wrestle, And Vince could not make him wrestle, so he sent him to ECW thinking, oh, Paul Heyman, I'll let you do it. If Paul Heyman could not find something out of you, you were fucked.
Yeah, basically.
And
Like,
they brought him back. They brought him back to WWF just so that he could job to wrestlers that they were going to use, and then he got released.
yeah, he got injured and he got released. Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, like so having just because you could have like the biggest physique ever, like you could be like a huge bodybuilder, but if you can't work in the ring, you're not going to go anywhere.
It's strength training. That's what it is. Wrestling is not about the build. It's about strength training and whether your body can be focused and fit enough to endure not just the pain of it, but putting on the mileage.
Yeah.
Like
Also cardio.
you know,
Like,
well, that's the thing,
Yeah.
right? When John's pec tore, he realized that he was training all of those years to be a bodybuilder, and then he realized that's not going to do it anymore. I got to train my body differently, and that's why he trained for the endurance. It's a totally different mindset for how you create your body.
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also like just there were so many wrestlers that stood out in general that I'm just wondering how did they manage to get away with some of the wrestlers that they actually got away with. Even going as far as like there was one wrestler who they never knew what to do with him, and even like because he was in the he was in the Attitude Era as part of the Truth and Commission. I forgot what's his name on there, but he was later rebranded to Bull Buchanan when he teamed up with the Big Boss Man.
Right. Yeah, because I remember Bull was in RTC for a bit.
Yeah, he was on
And then,
RTC, and then he would team up with John Cena.
Yeah, I remember that. He was B. I think it was a B squared.
Yeah, B Square.
Yeah.
They actually brought him back in 2011 when they did the This Is Your Life for John Cena, and he came back as the B Square character, and then he claimed like John Cena ruined his life because after he got released, he fell into Ponzi schemes and all this shit. But yeah,
Yeah.
and now his son is wrestling Brooks Jensen. He wrestles for NXT.
Yeah, that is his son. Right.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, right. Second generation wrestler.
Yeah, but
I think we're old.
yeah, he's currently.
Oh, jeez.
But he's currently wrestling in the Evolve brand.
Yeah, no, Evolve's kind of like been like NXT like feeder brand lately.
Yes.
Yeah, that's experimental now.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the next one's about moments. And Jeremy, I'm gonna go with you. What were your favorite moments from WWF and WCW during the Monday Night Wars?
Hmm.
If you can think of any.
Yeah. That's a good question because there's just so many.
A lot. That's really a lot.
There are a lot.
There is.
I think anytime Stone Cold entered an arena, honestly, like think about that. You know what I mean? Like anytime he entered the place goes crazy.
You get that glass shatter. It's just
craziest it's been was when Mick Foley won the title.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I had like this was now okay. I don't know who our audience is tonight, but at a time when not everybody owned a camera, not even a digital camera, when not everybody owned a film camera. No phones were in your hand. No one was live streaming. No one was that. You just saw an entire crowd of human beings jump to their feet and just lose their minds from glass shattering. And it happened every week. You know, like that's unheard of. That will never. The only time I have seen that happen again was a week ago in Paris. Think about that. You know what I mean? Like there's just nothing like that feeling just of the goosebumps, you know? I would count that as a moment. Anytime Stone Cold, the glass shattered and he walked out. That's how much power he had.
Yep.
I think another moment for me was WrestleMania 17 when um when Stone Cold went heel.
Oh,
Yes.
right.
There was another moment where we were like, this is the end. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this is the end of the war. Like
Right.
he turned on whoever. This was the end of the war. I think that was a moment.
He turned on The Rock.
Yes, turned on
Yeah,
Rock
this-
and shook Vince's hand.
Yes.
Right.
That was the end of the war. That was the transition. You know, that was invasion and everything to follow. That moment was important, as well as TLC 2.
Yep.
I think was a really important moment where you get those three teams and those 6 guys just building upon magic. You know, that was, I think, a very crucial moment moving forward. And what can we do to enhance what ECW brought to the mainstream? You know, like how can we make what a lot of people would not otherwise find? Well, what other people would find as niche, and what we could otherwise make mainstream, and they did it. They found a nice pocket where they could make TLC appropriate enough for a mainstream audience to watch. I think that was a very crucial moment. Another moment for me, I think, was when Trish and Lita started to like wrestle and come into their own. Like, I think that was just a building of moments. I know that their main event on Raw was 04, but I think that their momentum carried through, and every time they came out, place went nuts as well. There's something to be said about that charismatic factor. Jericho going over, Mankind winning the title again. That was the biggest moment. You know, we can talk days about the Montreal Screwjob, but I think what's important about that moment is that was one of the few times where we saw televised that kayfabe was broken. Like that we really truly saw that something was going on that we as a general audience didn't quite understand. You know, so I think that the birth of the McMahon villain character was very important, because you're getting like people in power now. They are actually showing what kind of power they have, and what better place to hide than right out in front of everybody. There's one more. I think my favorite, honestly, is when Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon had their match.
In a ring.
Yes, I think that was a very important moment, because here's an Olympic wrestler who, when hired, said, I can't ever lose. I'm a legit Olympic winning wrestler. How could I lose? And Vince is like, well, you don't quite understand this yet, but like, you have to lose. Like, it's entertainment, it's story, it's not about wrestling. And so you put an Olympic wrestler in a match where there's no holds barred and you're going through glass plate. You know what I mean? Like, that was a moment for me where you get somebody who can say, hey, if you're interested, this is what you have to go through in order to make a name for yourself at the time. This is what you're going to have to put yourself through. You're going to have to say to yourself, you know, it's not just about the technique. It's not just about putting younger guys over. It's about, can you handle the travel? Can you handle the stipulation? Can you work with creative on the script? And he got to that point where he could show that you could cross over, that an athlete can cross over into the entertainment industry, and you're bridging that gap. I think for me, that was one of those moments where I understood what it was all about.
Okay.
So that's just a small laundry list of like moments for me.
Sounds good. Yeah. Silver?
I was trying to recall like a lot of them off the top of my head, but like I'll try to like be at least like, you know, I'll try to like get to go a couple of them. So like for me, I'm always like a good for me, like whenever I think of like all these moments, like again, there's so many of them. I always love going back and watching like debuts or like people who cross over from like who jump ship from either company to other company. One that I always love going back to watch is Jericho. The Millennium Countdown.
Yep.
Like
that was brilliant marketing.
Yeah, because they counted down from like I think from like January and basically like up until like I think like it was like August that year, like, and then like it counted down, and then like God, like it was like huge. Like they really like rolled out the red carpet for Jericho, and then also for him to mix up with The Rock in his very first promo. As like that was like great. Like I remember like a lot of like this Rock's lines, like because he's burying like Big Show, but then like oh my God,
no, his best was with Coach when he turns to him and he goes, "You're still here."
Yes.
Yeah, no.
I do that daily. Like that's my favorite.
Oh my God, there are so many like Rock promos that there's like just moments unto themselves. He's like, I love like the one where like he's just like mimicking everybody. He's like, yeah. He turns on and has like, oh, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm gonna drink a couple of Steve Austin with some Backstreet Boys, and that's the bottom line because the great one said so. Like he was like went through like God. He went to I think like Austin, Rikishi's like, I did it for The Rock. I did it for the people. Oh, shut your mouth, don't worry, Penny. My name is.
Yeah.
There's like so many moments I remember just so well. There's like debuts, returns, like because like when you see like how the audience like reacts, for example, like it's just so good. Like you take with Stone Cold, like the glass shatters and everyone like no cameras and everyone's just like it's going nuts. One return I remember liking very much was when Kane came back. Like everyone's like lights went out. Everyone's like what the hell's going on? Everyone's like did you do this? Like did you do this? Like no, I didn't do this. And then you see like someone like walking in red and like hey that's Paul Bearer. And then like the Kane starts up.
Yeah.
And then like he's looking up and then like honestly the most bad thing like the fire like goes up and like completely engulfs like the stage and like Kane just like walks out like terrified straight towards the ring. Like oh my God, like that's like a moment unto itself. Like just like the domineering like physique and everything. Like oh like someone like literally stepped like out of hell to just like completely like decimate like DX and everybody else. Like that was like really big. Like of course like going over to WCW for a little bit. The Georgia Dome when Goldberg versus Hogan for the title.
Yeah.
Like that, like a lot of people like go back and say like, oh, like they should have put on a pay-per-view, but like I feel like at that point that was like WCW's like really biggest moment, like towards the end of like the Monday Wars, where like it was their biggest star, the biggest homegrown star, on the undefeated streak up against like Hollywood Hogan, and oh my God, like I something like because like I know that it's on YouTube now, like on the WCW channel. Like I go back and watch that match just to get the reaction of the audience, and like everyone's just eating it up, and like Bobby Heenan's like in his element, like he's like oh like watch like the one he puts him for the jackhammer, like watch the crowd like erupt, and they on command, like the one he puts him up, this like the crowd goes like loses it, drops him for the 1, 2, 3. Everyone's going nuts in the crowd. Like again, like when wrestling like really just like syncs up to like the energy of the crowd, and like everyone's like they know the result in their mind, but they're not sure if it's gonna happen. And then when it happens, like everyone's just like just loses themselves in it. Like that's phenomenal. Like there's like again a lot of like crazy moments I think of. DDP like being the first person to really stick it to the NWO. Because he's like wearing the shirt, and then like he hits everyone with the diamond cutter. Another WCW, like another one, like Lex Luger winning the title for the first time. Like that was great. Like there's a visual of the referee, like as he's racking Hogan, like referee can't even believe that Hogan's like tapping out. He's like, he taps.
Yeah.
And like, and I remember the call, like, Luger win the title. Like Luger's like going like ballistic. Everyone like, because like it's like the first like kind of like big shot against the NWO. Granted, Lex eventually like would drop title back to Hogan at Road Wild. Like I think afterwards, like that was like always the weird thing of like at WCW, like they knew when to pop the ratings, but then like a lot of stuff really did like fall back in status quo really quickly with the NWO, because like when it was starting, like it was like a big like paradigm shift. Hogan turning heel and everything, but then like I think that was an issue of like they knew when to have those moments happen, but like towards like the end there was so few and far between, because like I feel like the WWF is having this like more compelling storylines as a result. And again we go to the January 4th 1999, the if you guys are even thinking of change the channel, don't. Police to work, like he's gonna win their world title.
That's gonna put
some butts in the seats. and then
Yeah.
everyone flips the channel to see Mick Foley, literally just like again, like when Austin rolls out, everyone's like losing their mind, seeing Mick win. Like that was a moment. Like, and then for those unlucky folks who stuck with WCW through that, they watched they watched the finger poke of doom.
Like,
Hogan's-
Right behind him.
yeah, like, I forgot that happened on the same night. Like
It
that's
did.
something I forgot actually. Like
Yeah.
later on, I'm like that happened in the same day, the same night. Like no wonder they lost.
I changed the channel after the match between Foley and like The Rock.
And The Rock, yeah.
And it's like I changed it, and it was just in time to see that happen. And then there was like the finger poke of doom. I was like, wait, what the fuck happened? And I remember like people were talking about it in school. So
Yeah, I imagine like next day it would be like did you watch like either did you see Wick
In
win
the
the title?
same
Or,
hour, one of
Yeah.
our chatters said. In the same hour.
absolutely,
yeah, and it's like again like stunning that I'm like I forgot that was like the same time. Like wow, and then like I'll throw like two extra moments just before I move on here. I know like Jeremy brought up like WrestleMania 17, but like I'll always think like whenever I think of like X7 or 17, like it's always like Limp Bizkit, the My Way video package for Austin and Rock.
yes,
Like
Yeah.
oh my god, I will always go back and watch that where like they build up the whole story of like because Royal Rumble 2001, Austin wins, goes to WrestleMania basically. Rock I think beats Kurt Angle on the way to where the WrestleMania to, like and then it's both of them squaring up. Deborah gets involved at some point. And then everyone's like, it's the only time I've ever seen The Rock like not call himself like The Rock like in third person. Like they said everywhere like they're like talking about, hey, you got something I want. You got the WWF title. It's around your waist, and I want it. Like you feel like that real guttural, just like the desire to win. Like they it's a match that both of them want. That neither of them can afford to lose.
They truly brought out the best in each other, and not just in like professional. Like they personally brought out the best in each other.
they did.
No, for real. Like for
Can't beat
like,
that.
it wasn't just Austin. Like no, Austin and Rock were like really like the paradigm. Like they were the yin and yang basically that really held everything together. Like it like everyone's like look because everyone like really like puts Austin like up over Rock, but some people Rock over Austin. It really like flips around a lot, but like I feel like it's a shared thing of like there's no this without the
Can't
other
have
one.
one without the other. No, they
Right,
won't.
right.
There's no right answer.
No.
Yeah, really there isn't. Like we were talking about it earlier, but like how like when Austin went to ECW, like doing his thing and then going to WWF as ringmaster. Like imagine if that never happened, how would things go like without like a Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Attitude Era? Like it really like makes you like think. Like there's a lot of like what ifs, like butterfly effect type things.
Way too many what ifs.
Like way too many. Like again, like it's amazing how all it even went down because like really like you mess up like even like you change like one little detail, and it could have like this like crazy ramifications. Like what if Triple H wasn't fired? What if Rocky Maivia never really became The Rock?
Or here's another
Right?
one. What if Shawn Michaels refused to lose to Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14?
Oh,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
because Stone Cold was better than him at that time, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Well,
Right.
well, one thing I would say is that if he would have refused to lose to Austin, the Undertaker would have beat the shit out of
The
him.
Undertaker would
Yeah.
have knocked his brains out. I think he taped up his fists. Like you gotta go out there and do business tonight, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Oh, man.
it's like Shawn Michaels was a prick to a lot of people back then, but he knew not to fuck around with the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, Yoshils.
Okay. So I have a couple of them. Moments. I'll start with the one that I think that ended the Attitude Era, which is The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. I know Hulk Hogan is a bad name nowadays, but if you ever watch this match, when Hogan does the big boot and the leg drop is one of the loudest crowd reactions I ever watched live on TV.
Yeah.
It's insane how many people like were waiting for this, but it is what I feel the end of the Attitude Era because it's the two people that were in that moment that are basically passing the baton to the next people that we're going to the next era. So, like I know a lot of people say like The Rock versus John Cena was the baton pass, but I feel like that was their together of the company passing the baton to the younger guys. because after that, like that was it.
Yeah.
One of the other like moments I remember that I love is when Stone Cold got ran over by Rikishi.
Yeah,
Because he did it for The Rock.
he did for The Rock. That was a whole mystery too. Like, oh man, that whole saga of like who ran over Stone Cold. That was good storytelling.
It really was.
That was great because when he came back, it was like a whole other thing too. And Triple H was involved in The Rock, and it involved everyone without really involving everyone at the same time. So it was cool.
Right.
Yep.
Wait, Triple H was involved in long-term storytelling? No.
But it's just funny though, because it's like, like that storyline, when it actually happened, everyone was surprised. That no one could have expected that. That's like when the whole thing where like Vince McMahon's limo blew up, which was very weird, but it was so much better.
Right.
But then the other thing also was that was when the moment where I was like, yes, I like Rikishi, because he was a bad man, and first time he changed his song because he was with Too Cool at the time. So
I'm so glad he went with Too Cool.
It was like a big moment for me. But it's so funny, like nowadays, like because Roman Reigns with the tribal chief, I always call Rikishi the tribal cheeks. But that's a whole different thing. So he will always be the tribal cheeks.
Yep.
He ran over Stone Cold.
That's great.
Yes.
Can I use
Wonderful.
that in my life, please? Amazing.
So that was another one. The other one I remember that was really good that like a lot of people kind of skip over was when Vince McMahon was fighting Shane McMahon and they were having the match at WrestleMania, and Linda McMahon was supposed to be in the I forget what it was called.
Yeah,
like a vegetative state, like whatever.
Right,
like,
vegetative state.
So then Vince puts her in the ring, and then she stands up, and you get such a crowd reaction.
The crowd goes nuts.
And Shane pointing behind Vince, and then when Vince turned around and he goes, kick me, because you could see it in his face. He says it, and Linda just kicks him right in the balls. It's such a great moment.
So.
Yep.
It's so good. Like it's such a storyline match, but it worked out so well with like Trish Stratus and Stephanie fighting each other too in the background of it and everything. So. That was a
Shane
great
really
moment.
did put a lot of heart into that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He really did.
That was a great match. Like I said, it's a great story match. A lot of people skip over it though, which is funny. Another one that I liked is oh my goodness. Though a moment, not a match though, but Stone Cold comes in with his Jeep. And Vince McMahon is in the ring with all the security guards.
Oh,
and he jumps over all of them just to tackle Vince. Great. That's such a good moment. Like all that stuff is so cool. But then WCW wise, one of my favorite moments is when Goldberg and Big Show, Paul White, when he was the Giant. Before the match with Hulk Hogan, when he won the title, he had a match with him, the Giant. So the whole point was that the Giant was too big for him to do the jackhammer on. Fucking guy jackhammers him and spears him, jumps in the air. He does the big yell in the camera. I was like, oh, this guy is so good. And then he picked up the jackhammer. I was like, pick him up. He's so good. So man. It's actually one of my favorite WCW matches because of that, but it's a great moment because everyone freaks out when he gets him up because no one expected that. He was too big, but and then my other thing that I liked, which I'm surprised a lot of you guys didn't mention it, is Undertaker versus Mankind in the Hell in a Cell match.
Oh,
yeah, of course.
Because in that match, if Undertaker throws Mankind off the cage onto the table, that could have went so bad in so many other ways, and it landed perfectly for him.
Good God, they killed him.
It didn't, like, the table almost didn't even break his fall. He kind of like
it just flattens
on the angle, and it just flattened with him. It's
so it broke, but it slid him off the table anyway into the guardrail.
Yeah.
So and the crazy part is they had to lift the cage to get him on the stretcher. He still went back up,
Yep.
Undertaker does the choke slam, and this is the part that people sometimes forget too, is that when he choke slam him, he goes through the cage again
Right.
into the ring, and the chair hits him in the face so hard that his tooth is in his nose.
Just knocked his
Yeah.
nose. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is insane.
And Mark
And then-
Calloway standing at the top being like, please be alive.
Please be alive.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
crazy part is that they still wanted to do the thumbtack part, which
You're
was
like,
the first
yeah.
time thumbtacks was in wrestling since Japan.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Mick even wanted that. He was just like, just do it. Because the guy's got a high threshold for pain.
And
Yeah,
That-
no,
that-
absolutely.
That whole match is a moment in itself because it's as crazy as it was.
it was,
And then the other moment was WCW where shoot, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what it was. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it was ECW. So there was a match where New Jack was fighting, I believe it was Bubba Ray, but don't quote me on it. And he had him set up on the tables. There was like 4 tables stacked, like 2 tables stacked up and next to each other. So it was 4 tables. And New Jack goes on the top of the balcony, not much, is like 20 feet high in the air, and he jumps off onto the concrete floor onto these guys,
Yeah.
which was insane. You have to see that if you've never seen
You
that.
believe it.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's insane. So New Jack jumps off a balcony, and I forget who he does it to, but just put the ECW. I guarantee you it's going to pop up right away. It's like one of the most famous things that ECW did. And then the other thing I like about the ECW is like a whole thing in itself. Like there's a bunch of moments in it.
Yeah.
Like Stone Cold doing his promo on the ladder, talking to all the guys and saying all kinds of shit. Cactus Jack doing his promo that like made him Cactus Jack. And then there was a couple of other moments too of the scaffolding match that Tommy Dreamer was in. And there was like 7 tables like stacked together all around
I remember
him.
this. Yeah, I've seen that.
And Tommy Dreamer throws him off. He threw him off, hit some of the tables, but then he didn't land correctly on the tables and slid off onto the floor, which is insane.
Yep.
I was like, holy shit. But one more, and then I'll be done. Is that Bubba Ray and Devon, before they went to WWF, when they were at ECW, they did a lot of promos. But when they were in Philly, which they were always in Philly, they had a moment where they were talking a lot of stuff to the crowd, but it got so heated that they had to sneak out. Like they were telling, I don't know if I could say half of the stuff that they said. It was that bad. Like you have to watch this promo because it's bad. Like he's telling some lady that her daughter knows how to suck. Thing.
I know what you're
right.
I know what you're talking about too. I know what you're talking about.
About. I think that was like a heat wave.
And this is the Dudley Boy?
Yeah.
Dudley Boys, yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. Holy, I never like. It's so funny because everybody's like, "Oh man, they were like so bad." I'm like, "No, you have to watch them."
You have to watch it. They were
because they were nasty. they were a menace.
They were. Yeah.
Bubba Ray especially. So. Yeah, so that's like a lot of moments from everything that I remember. So there you go.
All right.
I tried to make it short, but it was too long.
Well, here's mine. I got a good amount. Like January 4th, 99. Yeah, that was definitely huge for me as well. I remember watching that, like staying up till like it was like 11 or so, and then I watched the end of that match, and then going into WCW to see the finger poke. But now here's some other moments I do remember that stood out to me the most. I remember the match where actually no, it's not a match, it was a moment. I remember Vince McMahon was in the hospital, and at first the first moment was Mick Foley coming in, like he brought in that clown Yerpole,
Mr. Sacco,
and then he had the Mr. Sacco. And then later that night, Stone Cold comes in and attacks Vince McMahon and hits him with a frying pan. No, what was that?
Ding. It's like
He
a bedpan.
rehearsed.
Backpack,
He
yeah.
rehearsed where the best spot to hit him was on the bedpan to get the
Right.
best sound. Like he
Ding.
practiced. Yes, he
It was
went
so
and
good.
he just
Oh
Yep.
man,
And
that
then,
sounded like rent free in my head because like it was perfect.
It's like, you know what it is? It's the perfect like sound you would use to receive a text message.
Yeah.
yeah. I also remember, and this was around a time where I wasn't really watching WCW, but I remember watching this match later on, and I was wondering what the fuck were WCW doing. It was Kevin Nash and Scott Hall facing against porn stars.
Oh yeah, I
That-
remember that.
Because like they
Yeah.
didn't really want to wrestle. They were just like wanted to just kick back and drink beer and all that shit. But they were forced to wrestle, so they wrestled porn stars.
Oh my god.
It's so weird.
But
Yeah, really.
and speaking of WCW, here's one of my favorite moments ever from WCW, where Sid Vicious comes out and he says, "You're only half the man that I am, but
Yes.
I have half the brain that you do."
That you do. Oh, man.
And just seeing Kevin Nash and Scott Hall laughing their asses off, like
Just like losing their minds.
they lost it. Yeah,
Sid Vicious with the mic skills of a small frog. It's like
I still remember that one promo that he did, like back when he was Psycho Sid in the WWF. It was a backstage interview with Jim Ross, and like,
where he's like,
and he forgot his lines, and he said, "Let's do it again."
Yeah.
And Jim Ross was like, "Well, we're live, pal."
We're live,
We're live, pal.
I say that every time whenever we're goofing off on the air.
Yep.
We're live, pal.
Yep. And speaking of Jim Ross, this moment took place in '97. Like Mankind was talking about his life story as Mick Foley, and like bringing up the Dude Love character before Dude Love debuted in WWF, but bringing up like that was the character that he was creating like when he was like a teenager to young adults. And towards the end of that interview with Jim Ross, he loses it and then starts wailing on Jim Ross and doing the man. I think he did the mandible claw as well.
Yes.
No, that was
Yeah.
that was a great performance.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, Vince actually found Mick Foley's life story fascinating and decided that he wanted that to be incorporated into the Mankind character, and which would lead to the whole Three Faces of Foley, because we would later get Do Love.
Yes.
And then, but the moment where it was in the first Raw in the Madison Square Garden, and I have two moments for this. It was because it was a match between Triple H and Do Love. But
Oh yes.
but that didn't happen, and instead, people thought it was gonna be Mankind, but nope. It ended up being Cactus Jack, and then the crowd went nuts, and then
I remember that number was so good because like I don't want to be like I was wondering because I make up the cover every time. I was like, because like he's like, I think this match needs a substitution. As a matter of fact, I think you know the guy, and then he just pulls out the mask, and then like I think Mick's gone on saying like if Triple H didn't sell that moment, it would have been completely dead.
Yeah,
but like he sells it because remember he came in to ask Captain Jack, but then it became like Mankind. Like he sells that moment so well, know, and rips the shirt off, and I'm like Cactus Jack, like completely changes the demeanor. Like I think like that's where you can see like a true like character change. Like Mankind's like very his speech, the pattern, like the way how he walks, and then when he puts Cactus Jack, it's a completely different beast altogether.
Yes.
Like again, that's one thing. That's the thing I love about like the wrestling, like just the theater of it all.
And the other moment, I remember like the very first time that Stone Cold stunned Vince McMahon, which because back then Vince McMahon was the announcer for WWF.
Yeah.
And because the commentary team was Vince, JR, and the King, and Vince was interviewing Stone Cold. Stone Cold at the time, he was still injured because he was coming off of that that neck injury that he had sustained because of Owen Hart's botched pile
Because of
driver.
Hart, yeah.
Um, For the record, rest in peace, Owen Hart.
Mhm.
And then I remember the moment that he stunned Vince McMahon, the crowd just popped off like very hard because no one thought that he would ever have stunned like Vince McMahon, and that would eventually lead to when like the Mr. McMahon character was created, and then Austin was the primary target.
Right.
And
Right.
Yeah.
that, and also like when Austin met Mike Tyson and the two fought each other and they had to break the whole thing up. That was a moment.
Like I think about it, like as well as like because Stone Cold flipped them off.
Right.
It's like a little bit of the sign language. Here's one too. He flips him off, and then like Tyson just shoves him, and then TR's like Tyson and Austin. Like
And fucking, yeah,
man.
because Mike Tyson was coming off of like when he got suspended for after biting Evander Holyfield's ear off.
Evander Holyfield's ear.
Like that.
Yeah, I believe.
Oh, I call it the Erios incident.
like he couldn't box, but he ends up like entering the wrestling ring as the special enforcer for that match, which was a really good match.
Yes.
But I think it would have been a better match if Shawn Michaels didn't have that back injury.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
They still
He
put a
was-
pretty good show on though.
Yeah,
He did. He worked hurt, but like honestly, again, it was a box office match basically. Like they earned like it was a huge draw for them, like for sure.
it was.
Yeah.
But another one that I could bring up is I know obviously this one wrestler is taboo these days, and he's been a taboo for almost 20 years because of what he did. And but the moment that Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Perry Saturn, and Dean Malenko all left the WCW to go to the WWF together, where they would eventually become the Radicals.
The Radicals.
Like,
yeah.
like from
Which was the smartest thing they could have ever did.
because I remember watching, I remember just watching Raw. I thought that it was just going to be just another run-of-the-mill Raw. Wanted to see what was going to happen, and then because this was during the match between the New Age Outlaws versus Head Cheese.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Head
Al Snow.
cheese.
Yes,
Yeah.
like Al Snow
my
and
God.
Steve Blackman. Yes,
Al Snow and Steve Blackman. Yeah.
and then what happened was that during like after when Al Snow was making his entrance, and then he just stepped out of the ring. People wondering why he stepped out of the ring. Then you would see the Radicals come in. He was giving handshakes to all of them because those are actually his friends too. And it turns out, like, because I was like, wait, what are they doing here? Weren't they in WCW? And it's like how like, and it turned out like they actually did sign contracts, but in storyline they were there without contracts. And then then they showed up on SmackDown. They had to earn their contracts. The original plan was for the Perry Saturn Eddie Guerrero match that they were supposed to win, but Eddie Guerrero got injured and they called it audible, so that DX won. Well,
Right.
yeah, the New Age Outlaws won that match, and because Dean Malenko fought X-Pac, and then like it was supposed to be 1-1, and then Triple H would face Chris Benoit, which he fought him anyway. And then like Triple H was always supposed to win that, but then Monday Night Raw comes in, and then you have Mick Foley and the Radicals, and then the moment Triple H was like saying, you either stand with them, and you either leave with Mick Foley, or you stay there because I am the man who just given you guys your contracts, and they instantly turn heel by attacking Cactus Jack.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and it turned out that of those four, only Benoit and Guerrero would become huge stars. Like Malenko would retire the next year, and Perry Saturn got punished because he botched like there was a jobber who botched a move on him, and he beat the shit out of that jobber.
And he beat him up after.
So
right.
so his punishment was that he was given a moppy.
Moppy.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
no, that's right. Oh
Yeah.
Yeah. He got saddled with that gimmick.
Yeah, you got saddled with that gimmick.
Damn.
And then he stood around until like sometime in 2002 he got released.
Mm.
And for the longest time, like Dean Malenko was a road agent for WWE, and then like in 2019 he left to go to AEW, where he's pretty much a coach over there.
Yeah, he is now.
He's still there.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's still there.
But it's just funny how yeah, fuck everything that Chris Benoit did. Don't get me wrong,
Absolutely.
but like for me, it's always gonna be Eddie Guerrero. It's always gonna be Eddie Guerrero. Like I still miss him. To me, wrestling just has not
Yeah.
been the same without him. Though I wonder how things would have been like if he would still be alive, and what matches he would have had, and how much more championships he would have got. He would have done a lot more.
I
But-
saw
Yeah,
one
no,
of his
absolutely.
last. I saw one of his last house matches at Nassau Coliseum.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Wow.
like mere weeks before, and it was just like
Hmm.
shocking because I was just like, no, don't even tell me that.
I believe
Yeah.
I believe that was the point where I was kind of like out of like with wrestling, and then like when I heard that he died, that actually kind of brought me back into
Yeah.
it again. Because like I was really in and out with the ruthless aggression, and like when I heard that he died, I was like, I think one of the first shows I watched back was like the Memorial show, and not a dry eye in the audience. Like, man, that was sad.
I was
Sad.
And then watching Ray win the title like next year. Was-
Yeah.
yeah, I was off and on because like I just started college around that time, and I couldn't really focus on
Mhm.
wrestling, so I was watching a lot more. Like I wasn't watching as much, but
Right.
I remember like I was just chilling at home, and all of a sudden I had somebody back when we had AIM Instant Messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had someone tell me Eddie Guerrero died. I'm like, wait, what? So I decided to just go to WWE.com, and it was right there, front page. I was like, I was.
Yeah.
I told my brother, and then like afterwards, like I was just messaging other people about it. Everyone just started talking about it. But
Yeah, no, it was gutter. Like I think I learned it in a paper because like I wasn't really getting following with like online internet like news, and then like when I read, I'm like wait, Eddie Guerrero died? Like I didn't know about this. Like
yeah.
just threw completely out of it.
I forgot how I found out.
But speaking of wrestler deaths, Owen Hart.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
God.
remember-
Oh.
I didn't watch the pay-per-view because back then, like, I couldn't really afford getting the pay-per-views. I was and then we had to be selective on which ones we would watch. But
Right.
the next day at school, I remember going, and people were just talking about it, like Owen Hart died. I'm like, I just like was, I'm like, what? How? Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it, and it was hard to watch. I couldn't even watch the whole like Raw where they did the tribute.
Yeah. Raw's on. Yeah.
Yeah, the Raw's Owen, and looking back, after finding out that Vince actually wanted the show to keep going, I was pissed. Like once I found out like he actually wanted the show to keep going, I was fucking pissed off. I'm like in my mind, you know what? There was a point where I kind of was like against Martha because I was actually hearing like the points that Bret Hart was making, but honestly, after hearing so many things right now and knowing what I know, I think Martha is in the right to feel how she feels.
I watched the Dark Side of the Ring episode on that, and like for the longest while because even I was like, why is she letting like Owen go into the Hall of Fame? And then when you look at like all the details, all the evidence of like how what went into like the stunt and everything, I'm like, wow, like Martha was like 100% right, and they completely basically buried her. The Hart family wouldn't stop being wanting to be in like Vince's good graces. Brett was obviously with emotion, but like they just seemingly like let Vince off the hook, and like Martha was like, no, like you killed my Owen, like I'm not gonna let you guys get satisfaction of making more money off of him, after what you did to him. So like I for the longest time I didn't know, and then like when I understood, I'm like, wow, like you guys are really screwed up, and like I honestly like, she was kind of justified in that, and like I'm glad that she stuck to her guns to this day, like, and like again like it's a really sad story because like honestly it didn't have to happen the way it did,
No.
and like the fact that the show went on like was just like painful. Like you can see like the demeanor of the wrestlers, you know, before and after. Complete tonal shift, you know.
Yes. If they would have just ended the show, like what they could have just done was they could have just ended the show, and then at a later date they could have just made it up, like they did with In Your House too. In Your House,
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah,
like the fans would honestly, the fans would not have been upset if they like they would
have understood. They would have understood.
They would have understood, yeah. Like,
like,
but it's just Vince McMahon being a huge piece of shit like he always is. Even back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
absolutely.
like, so Martha Hart is 100% in the right on how she feels and is justified on not letting Owen Hart be in the Hall of Fame. And Owen's son he said the same thing, that even if Martha is gone, that he would not let.
I'm not letting. Yeah, he's not gonna let him like do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so I remember just like I was just very upset, very gutted. Like when I found out, I could not bring myself to finish watching that Raw.
Did you saw that live or no?
I did not watch Over the Edge live. Okay. I did watch the Raw live, and I couldn't finish.
So I was the only one that saw it live then.
Oh,
probably.
Yeah, because I wasn't watching.
You watched Over. Oh, yeah. No, I did not see it. That's good.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I was younger at the time, so it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, the problem is that when you're talking about stuff like this, and even if you did watch like the ins and outs and everything, there's always two sides to it. It's the one side of like the emotion and everything like that, which is what you guys are talking about on that side. But then, of course, people have to talk about the business side where they're like, well, they feel like the show needs to go on because they got to put it on for the fans. But in this situation, it made no sense because not everybody was okay with it. Like, it should have been in the back a consensus of how they should continue. Stop the show for 20 minutes, see how everybody feels, and then you go from there. Obviously, no one was okay with it because even in the... I remember because I saw the same thing, the Dark Side of the Ring, and they were like, you know, we just literally just saw our friend just fly into the floor, and then now we're wrestling in a pool of his blood, basically. It's like, that's crazy. Like, that's insane. So I 100% agree with you when it comes to that. But it's like, the other thing also is like the whole Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit thing. So I agree with Eddie Guerrero because of the whole thing of what happened and how he died and everything like that. And, you know, if it would have went different, maybe even Chris would have been alive too, because he was kind of like Eddie was the thing that kept Chris in line with a lot of stuff. And then 2 years later is when everything happened, because when Eddie Guerrero died 2 years later, that's when that happened. In a situation like that, like, listen, Eddie Guerrero, great wrestler. I mean, Chris Benoit, I'm sorry. Chris Benoit, great wrestler, whatever it may be. Separate him from the person that he was. The person that he was a piece of shit. Like, Paul, if you ever see the interview that Paul Heyman had, like someone said, "My boy,"
I did see that.
Yeah, I watched that one.
I 100% agree with Paul Heyman. Like, the fact that, like, he's a great wrestler, phenomenal. He could have been the best of the best, and then he ruined it by being the way he was. Whether or not if it's his fault or not, with the whole, you know, the whole
CTE discussion, yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, like, you're the one who allowed that to happen. So that's on you. Yeah. You should have said something if that was the case. And then even so, like, you took your whole family that he had a choice. Like, this is how I feel at the end of the day. And I'm just going to put it simply. And again, Paul Heyman said the same thing. He had a choice that night. His wife and his son had no choice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's fucked up.
It is fucked up.
So, like, you know, it is what it is. And funny enough, that's when I stopped watching. It is because after what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why it's like a little bit of an emotional thing for me too, because like that's when I stopped watch wrestling, like cold, because I was like, this is fucked up. I ain't watching.
This is too much. Right.
Yeah. And I've been watching it since like '92. So at that point, 15 years later, that was enough. And And it is what it is. I did end up going to some indie shows with my brother, which is like Evolve and Ring of Honor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was
Right.
never really going back to WWE. And then I want to say around 2015, 2016, because I've been to the WrestleMania in New Jersey. Like,
Right.
So I know it was like around that time when I started getting back into it because of my brother.
Right.
And then my friends were into it also. But that's not talking about the
I was
Attitude
at
Era.
both of the WrestleManias in Jersey.
Yeah,
Right.
MetLife,
That's
yeah.
when I started getting, like, when the Shield came in, that was like
Yeah.
the thing that kind of got me back into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I thought that was like, that's like the DX of that era.
It
Sure.
was.
You know,
it was,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
But now that's getting off topic because we're not talking about, the Attitude Era, but like,
Yeah.
Attitude Era was the golden age, in my opinion. Like, because there was competition when it came to that, and now there's no competition for them. Like, even AEW was partly a competition, but it's not really. It's not real competition. Like, I'm sorry.
I think though that right now the way that the internet is set up is that it is a great time to just be a wrestling fan.
In general, yeah.
It's a great time to just be a fan of the entertainment of it all because we have so much accessibility to finding so many different ways to watch people do their craft that accessibility allows for anyone to really just partake in whatever they want to
Yeah.
and to be a fan of the people who are doing it.
Exactly.
And
Right.
the limitation that we had back in the 90s only allowed for us to do so much, which I think is why tape traders were so huge in the niche of wrestling. And to be able to access that was a lot more difficult because in a way you kind of had to talk to some shady people to like be able to get some of those tapes
Yep.
and to get those recordings. So
Right.
you're like you're thinking to yourself like, who am I talking to? And there was no really like a way to watch these like tapes unless you kind of had a friend of a friend who already got into some shady stuff, who went to the same school as another friend of yours, and you were able to get like a recording of that tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
having the accessibility of all of that, then we were very limited, especially if we were kids. We didn't know, all we knew was what was presented to us.
Right.
Like, I'll tell you, I can actually tell you the process of what happened with the ECW tapes. So what happened is my brother actually knew people from Philly. Like, his friends knew people from Philly that actually was recording the show, basically. And what happened was they had it in tapes because they got the tapes from the ECW people, like whoever recorded it. So then what happened is after they got that, the tapes would come to
You're
New
talking
York.
about like hard can tapes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they were able to get copies of it, basically. So then what happened is then they moved those tapes to New York. So my brother's friend was able to get the tapes from them, which then we all went to my brother's friend's house to all watch ECW with them. So that's how the tapes got circulated like that. So people were basically buying the tapes and then trading the tapes. But they were coming from Philly going out into like New York, Connecticut, whatever it may be. So that's how that whole situation happened. So that's why when they talk about like switching tapes and stuff like that, it all centralized in Pittsburgh when it happened.
Yeah.
And then came out from there because obviously they had to get the recording of it first.
I remember.
So that's how that process happened. And that's how I was able to watch it the way I was. That's why I know things like the New Jack thing I was talking about before, or like another moment that I forgot to mention before, Brian Pillman, when he came to ECW the one night and he did a promo and the promo was so egregious, they kicked him out. So
Yeah.
it's like, like crazy stuff like that. You could actually, the Brian Pillman interview, I believe is still on YouTube. If you look up ECW Brian Pillman, it's the only thing will pop up because he never wrestled there. He was going to wrestle, and he didn't. And then the other thing you could probably see is when Kurt Angle went to ECW for the one night, and then they crucified the Sandman.
They crucified the Sandman, and he was like,
He said he basically he even told Paul Heyman, if you broadcast my appearance in ECW at the same time as that moment, I will sue you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is Paul Heyman, even though Paul Heyman knew, he told Kurt Angle, he goes, "Oh, I didn't know that was gonna happen." He's such a fucking liar.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
No.
he tried to put like fib really badly.
Yeah.
Apparently, Kurt Angle and Paul Heyman are on good terms now.
Oh yeah, of course. It's just that one moment because like, you know, it was really like Raven was the one that got the heat for it, but all those guys should have got heat for it.
They all should.
So
Yeah.
But like, because I've been hearing about tape traders for years. Like my cousin, he would get some ECW tapes, but he would also get some tapes from both All Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling in the 90s, because both of them were basically competing with each other very hard over there. Because I believe All Japan had like wrestlers like they had Big Van Vader over there. They had Stan Hansen.
Sam Hansen, Misawa, like those guys.
Misawa was a legend. Giant Baba.
Jumbo Saruta, like those guys.
And then New Japan had Antonio Inoki, who
literally you reminded me of one match, the ECW match with it was oh my goodness, you mentioned his name before, the guy that used to powerbomb people that was in the ECW. He had the title when he fought Taz, when Taz was in WWF.
Mike Awesome.
What's his name? Yes.
Mike
Awesome.
Yeah.
It was Mike Awesome versus what's his name? That was from New Japan. That he came in for the one night for Barely Legal. There was a match. I think so. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'm not sure for some yeah, it has to go back and find it. But like, I know, I'm thinking most like to because I know like Masato Tanaka was like Mike Awesome's like basically like his best opponent in ECW, because like they would have like a really good match with each other.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly who it was. It was Tanaka, because they had a match and it was like obviously ECW hardcore match, but the way they were fighting each other, they were literally beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah,
it was an insane match.
It's an insane match. They even brought him back for 2005 as a one night stand when they did the revival.
Yeah, it was Heat Wave actually. That's what it was.
Heat Wave.
Because I looked it up. It was Heat Wave '98. Which is an insane show.
Like,
so
I know I have a couple of other topics I want to ask, but here's one. But there's one I want to actually add to this, and it's about ECW. Like, pretty much the question is, how much have you felt ECW's presence within both WCW and the WWF during the Monday Night Wars? And so I'll go with you first.
So like basically, God, it's loaded, but also like you realize that like again they were doing anything possible to get an edge on the other, and in a way ECW was like a big like feeder promotion for both of them, because like there was this wild renegade promotion with these crazy ideas run by this person who just like had like all this charisma, who knew, had really good business acumen, for better or worse. And they were like, you know what? Sure, why not? Like initially it was like working relationships that they would have, like a little bit of crossovers. I remember like when Jerry Lawler would call them extremely crappy wrestling.
Oh God, he did.
And then that can lead to a match where like he was there. I forgot who he faced, but I think Raven, yeah. Like,
and he also faced Tommy Dreamer.
Tommy Dreamer, yep, the Innovator Violence.
Oh, no. He didn't face Raven because Raven just left ECW in his last match against Tommy Dreamer because he was going to go to WCW. So it was Tommy Dreamer he was facing.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely Dreamer then. But like, again, like, obviously, like, ECW was making enough waves to be like, did like, oh, like we see those guys over there doing those extreme matches. Eventually, they started to weave a little bit more extreme stuff into their products. Tables matches and such. Eventually, like, you get in the combination with TLC in WWF, WWE.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot, like, if ECW had WCW had like an equivalent, but like they were definitely like, at least pushing the envelope a little bit more, because like they were like realizing that fans wanted a lot of more of that hardcore style.
They did.
And then also with the cruiserweights, like they brought in like these foreign talents that were like really tearing it up in the ring, and they're like, hey, let's take some of those guys and build our own division, around that. Like, there's a lot. I feel like without ECW, like it could be a different like Monday Night War altogether, because like a lot of things that were innovated in a smaller promotion with like a rabid fan base, they could take that to the mainstream on national television, give it a go and see like what works, what doesn't work, and then like really like pick and choose like who they want to bring up to the big leagues, basically.
Yeah.
Like that, that's the key reason why like ECW like was able to survive for as long as it did, because like they really and truly it was like the breeding ground for like a lot of these ideas that they weren't sure that would work unless they needed like a proven idea of like, oh, like this worked here, let's bring it up and see what here. And then like of course with the talent like that came in and out, like again being able to some of them thrived on the main stage, some of them just really like it was sink or swim, because like there's a lot of like hype with like a lot of these guys coming in, and like some of them like did pretty well, others like got set with terrible gimmicks, like they didn't get like why they were like big in ECW, or in the case of like Public Enemy, they thought they were so big in ECW that they could transition to like other promotions, but like they were like one trick ponies.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were. Yoshils?
Okay. So, being the guy that watched ECW too much,
Let's do it.
the way that I look at ECW is that it was the evolve of that time, because what happened is WCW and WWF, they had more money than ECW. Paul Heyman couldn't really pay the guys even at that point. So a lot of guys would be dropping ship to go to other companies because they would, get paid more, obviously, because that's kind of the whole thing. Like,
Right.
But
Talks.
Right. But the thing is, though, is that it was also a transitional company where you were able to do whatever you wanted. So if you had an idea of how you felt like you should be, you could actually do that, because Paul Heyman didn't care at that time. He just said, just go out there and make me money. So, like, for example, that's why you go from WCW, where Stunning Steve Austin is teaming with Brian Pillman, and then he gets fired by Eric Bischoff to go to ECW, because ECW at that time was the only person that was taking him. WWF was not taking him at the time. He cuts great promos. He does great matches. He ends up being the ringmaster in WWF and winning the King of the Ring, which changed his entire career. The whole point is what I'm saying is that ECW was that transitional point that made him look like a star. Same thing with Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack was from New Japan. He went to ECW. He cut his amazing promos. He had great matches. Ending up going to WWF, became Mankind. The rest is history. You got Lance Storm even, who went to ECW, goes to WCW because he was making more money there, and ends up going to WWF. So that's his career. We got Raven, who ended up from ECW to WWF right away, and they still used him in WWF anyway. He ended up doing pretty well there, here and there. Then you got RVD, ECW guy, ended up going to WWF, winning the title, and then fucking up his career by smoking with Sabu.
Was that Sabu? Yeah.
Oh
Man.
Then you got you have what's his name? Oh goodness gracious! Even like Brian Pillman went there.
Yeah.
So WWF, I mean, he was WCW. He was with Stunning Steve Austin. Ended up going to ECW for one night to cut a promo. Fucked up the entire promo by getting himself kicked out, but he ended up going to WWF. So, so like the thing. My whole point is what I'm saying is ECW was the show to watch if you wanted to see people before they actually became famous. And the funny thing is that's why I called it indie show in a way, because they were able to do whatever they want. And then I used to watch, like I was saying before, ROH, Evolve, all these shows that were here in New York. I ended up seeing Samoa Joe before he became an NXT guy. So I got to meet him there. I actually met Sami Zayn before he went to WWF.
El Generico.
You know what I'm saying? Like I met a lot of these people. I have pictures. Funny enough, Trent Beretta. He went to AEW. I went. Who else did I see? There was a lot of people. Like Johnny Gargano.
Oh,
He went to
yes.
WWF. He went to NXT.
Body wrestling.
Yeah.
Tommaso Ciampa too. I met him
Ciampa.
also from the Indies. He ended up going to WWE also with Johnny Gargano.
Yep.
So it's like I met all these people through the same thing, and then all it did was remind me of ECW, because ECW, like I said, is that transitional moment for them to either become popular, you know. So that's why I feel like ECW, in a nutshell, is the developmental for the other companies, even though they try to be something else.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
basically free range to do whatever they wanted. And honestly, I loved it for that because they were able to do whatever they want. And it was the hardcore show to watch because you never knew what was going to happen, because half the time they didn't even know what was going to happen. So
Yeah, because
that's what made it great. So I love it.
Yeah.
Because I remember there was a moment where ECW would become what it was when they had a tournament to crown the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, and Shane Douglas won it. And after naming a bunch of former NWA World's Heavyweight Champions, he throws the belt into the ground, and he pretty much renounces the NWA, and then he brings the ECW championship. This apparently pissed the NWA off because they had a working relationship. Because back then, ECW was Eastern Championship Wrestling, and after that, they were rebrand from Eastern Championship Wrestling to Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Right. Because Todd Gordon was the one that owned it at the time.
Yeah, Todd Gordon, but then Todd Gordon ended up becoming, like, people. He was accused of being the mole for WCW because there was a lot of wrestlers from ECW going to WCW.
Right.
Jeremy?
because it was so funny because he goes, and you could all kiss my ass.
Yep, that is true. Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, I actually don't have too much more to add to what was already said, but I feel like so much was taken from ECW into WCW and WWF at the time that I always brand ECW, at least starting from about 1997, as the proof of concept. So if ECW was able to do something that worked, and it worked in tandem for a very long time, that's when it became noticed by the other two companies. So I feel like that idea of having proof of concept allowed ECW to get bigger on their own merit, and why it exploded in the way that it did.
Yes.
I think that it caught Paul Heyman off guard, because when it got so big as the proof of concept, he didn't know how to pay his guys.
Right.
Because they all either wanted more, or they all wanted to have a piece of what was going, like what was being successful.
Right.
So the whole world of Philadelphia, and I say world of Philadelphia, became the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
I ground a lot of how I approach wrestling with my son. Like as I go back, I have to like tell him, hey, like these chair shots are real to the head. Like he doesn't understand that. You know what I mean? Because all he sees is shots to the back. I'm not going to show him GCW right now. I'm not going to show him that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, I have to kind of like level with him and level with myself and being like, okay, I think there's an appropriateness to maturity, not age. It's appropriateness to maturity of when I can show him or tell him, hey, by the way, like this happened. But when it comes to that, ECW proof of concept is what I'm going to show him, as the aftermath, not necessarily the precursor. I'm going to show him what the aftermath of that is. And so I'm going to kind of like train him backwards. You know what I mean? Like that's my thought process in all this, because that's how I was brought up in it. I went backwards with my love for wrestling. So I think for him, it's going to be easier to digest and easier to understand where everything came from, and that ECW is the de facto of the genesis of what like happened to what he knows now, because up to the point of New Generation and everything, we can kind of like say that was the old style, coming up with characters, wrestling, like everything switched over in 96, 97.
Yeah.
And so ECW Extreme Championship Wrestling proof of concept is where everything moved forward into what we know now.
Yeah.
I always use ECW as like the marking point of wrestling to sports entertainment.
Sports entertainment.
Exactly.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Because I remember the first time the WWE has ever heard of ECW was back in 1995 during the King of the Ring in the main event, which was a terrible match between Savio Vega and King Mabel. Or well, Mabel will win that match. And during that match, there were people chanting ECW, ECW. And
Yeah.
from what I've heard, that the WWF at the time were made aware of ECW. They didn't know who ECW was, but they were made aware, and then they would find out that they were a smaller local because they were in Philadelphia during the King of the Ring. It was a small local independent wrestling company, and they find out that Paul Heyman ran the company, and later they would strike a deal. So, which the moment they struck that deal was around the time back in 1997 they had ECW invade the WWF at the Manhattan Center.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, they did.
I remember hearing about this.
They would have some ECW wrestlers have some matches against each other in the WWF ring. Not so much to show off the extreme part, but to show off what these wrestlers can actually do. And
Give them a platform.
Introduce these wrestlers to the world. Like you would get to see Devon Dudley. You would get to see the BWO. You would get to see so many wrestlers that would come in. Never heard of them before. Well, this is your introduction right here. It was the same Raw that the Legion of Doom came back. The Road Warriors came back to the WWF around this time as well, because they were surprised. They faced against the Headbangers, and like I believe this was around the time where Raw started to become 2 hours to compete with Nitro, and people were saying that was at the time that was like the best Raw in years, because Raw was boring for the most part, because people were hooked on the NWO storyline in WCW. And this would eventually start slowly bleeding into WWE storylines, WWF storylines at the time. Hence, we would slowly plant the seeds of the Attitude Era, and thus we would get some amazing matches overall. But ECW's influence in WWF at the time was huge, because we would start seeing wrestlers that would bring their characters to WWF, and we would see which ones would actually get over, which ones would. Like we already mentioned Public Enemy, but unfortunately, Blue Meanie could not get over, and also what didn't help was fucking Bradshaw.
Yeah.
All
right. Yeah. Right.
Though I did like the Blue Meanie though.
I love the Blue Meanie.
Mini's fun,
but it's but WCW were getting some ECW stars before WWF did. Like Sabu actually wrestled there for a little while. But Sabu left because he did not like how WCW was run at the time. Because he was there mainly because he wanted to be a part of the cruiserweight division.
Right.
At that same time, like WCW had Jushin Thunder Liger there. So,
yes,
they did have Liger.
So they were getting some ECW wrestlers. Like at the time, they would get they got Benoit, Malenko, and Guerrero. Saturn was already Saturn was still at ECW at the time. He would come to WCW later. And when ECW was losing stars, that's when they had the idea where they would get some Japanese wrestlers and Lucha Libre stars. Like that's where they would get like the likes of Psychosis, Rey Mysterio, Juventud, and all of them. ECW would get them,
Mhm.
and then they would later
Right.
go to WCW.
Right, like Super Crazy was part of that too, and
Yeah,
Cyclope.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like basically, I think the thing that really there's two things that really put ECW on the map. The first one is what you mentioned, which was the whole going to Raw and showing off the guys there. The second thing that put him on the map was the cruiserweights, because it was literally both WWF and WCW taking both of them at the same time, because they were making the cruiserweights and they had like a whole part there which everybody loved,
yeah.
and then they split them apart because they all got sold out basically.
Mm,
Like
And then they lost all their cruiserweights.
yeah, the only one that stood in ECW until the end was Super Crazy. He stood in
Yeah.
ECW. He was loyal to ECW.
very
Yeah,
loyal.
he was good with RVD too when they had matches.
Exactly.
He was
yeah.
super. He was crazy. He was
super
super crazy.
crazy.
Yeah,
But like,
I also just to double back really quick with Jushin Thunder Liger, I always liked to call him the Fusion Thunder Tiger Zord.
yes,
it's a Power Ranger reference.
Nice.
exactly.
Nice.
I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like the main thing for me was like with ECW, like because I didn't even know what ECW was until I started watching WWF, because I would see ECW referenced, but I would see ECW wrestlers in both companies. Like WCW got Raven, WCW got who else did they get? They later got the Sandman at one point, but he was known as Hack, Hardcore Hack.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what they called them.
it didn't really work out too well.
Yeah, because they were trying to have a hardcore division over there because the WWF had it. So Monkey See, Monkey Do. That's what WCW was
Right.
doing, and
Yep.
they had the
Mhm.
hardcore championship until early 2001. And the funny thing is, the person who had that hardcore championship left WCW to go to WWF, and
Right.
that was Meng, or Haku as people
Haku.
remember him.
Yes, Haku.
Yes.
Crazy.
But like just the storylines, like because they had both raunchy storylines as well as like hardcore bloodbath wrestling, like all the shit that they had, like barbed wires. What they were doing, they were being innovative. They did so many things before anybody else in the United States, and
Mhm.
and WCW would take whatever successful and use it in their programming. WWF used it in their programming to a much higher degree than what WCW was doing with it, because WWF, when they were going all in on Attitude Era, they definitely went there. They had everything.
Yeah.
But
The Attitude Era started with Stone Cold winning the King of the Ring, and it ended with Rock and Hogan. That's how I feel with the situation. Like I know you probably have a million questions, but I don't know if this is one of them. But I don't know if anybody feels the same way about that. That's actually, I feel like, is a good question, because that kind of shows like a generation of like what did people consider the beginning and the end of the Attitude Era
For
in a
me-
generation.
for me, the beginning of the Attitude Era was back in December '97, when Vince McMahon made that speech. But
Okay.
but in terms of the vibe of the Attitude Era, I would say it really cemented in '97, like around the time when like
Mhm.
after
Yeah.
after WrestleMania that year, and how Bret Hart was a hated heel in the United States, but he was a huge babyface everywhere else in the world.
Mhm.
Stone Cold was like on the rise, and speaking of Bret Hart, him and Shawn Michaels having that huge rivalry, and The Undertaker as well.
Mhm.
Not to mention the fact that we would start seeing some of the wrestlers there who you would see them with a certain character that they would have. They would develop like more edgier versions of themselves that you would never have seen. Like, hence the fact that with Mankind, they would incorporate his actual life story into his character that would lead to Do Love, that would lead to Cactus Jack.
Mhm.
So yeah. So with the Attitude Era, I'd say like it was definitely '97. But to me, the Attitude Era died once Austin shook hands with
Vince.
Vince McMahon.
Yeah, that's where
Okay.
I draw the line too. I my start is the same as you though, Yoshi's.
Mhm.
So I would say that when Austin made his promo, that
Yeah.
like rocked everything. Yeah. Everybody was like,
Yeah.
okay, now we're in new territory now. But I think that the handshake between Vince and Stone Cold was the true end of the Attitude Era, because there's this like small pocket of like 2 to 3 years before the ruthless aggression stuff started kicking in,
Yeah.
where it was extremely transitional. They didn't quite know what to do with all these people, so you're kind of like throwing everybody where you think they'll fit in storyline, but there's just so many people who got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
And I feel like that like pocket, I don't like to call it the invasion era. I like to call it the like mixed bag era, because
Yeah.
it's not quite, or the draft era. I don't know what to call it, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you get this
Mhm.
little pocket, but there wasn't a lot of attitude because you bought your competition.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like the attitude of it all was kind of lost where they're scrambling. Like there wasn't like a clear focus at that point, because again, you're just not quite sure what to do with all these bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
tough. It's tough.
I could see that.
all right.
Definitely, I could definitely see that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Well,
For me, I said the beginning of that there was like the end of it is definitely like again when Austin and Vince like go buddy buddy at the end of 17. But the beginning like you say like that it's like when Vince made that speech. I personally think it's Montreal Screwjob.
yeah. That was
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the birth of Mr. McMahon. Yeah.
Really, I think that's where it began because like Vince makes his speech. I think like a month after it happens. And like kicks in the Attitude Era, but like before and like really that was when like things were really the lines were being blurred because like a lot of things were changing because like once Bret Hart was out because like he was basically like the last vestige of the new generation,
Yeah.
and then the Attitude Era really like, kind of seeped in afterwards. So I think that's why I say the start begins.
There is, however, one more point where I would say that the Attitude Era actually started.
Mhm.
It was the steel cage match. There was the first Hell in a Cell match.
Mm.
It was Bret Hart and the Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the first one.
I think that was one where Shawn Michaels was the referee, and
Special guest referee.
and it was for the WWF Championship. That's where I think that like if the Attitude Era would have had a good place to start, that would be a good place to start too. That was a good match, very good match.
Bad Blood in your house. I believe that was the event. I believe.
Oh yeah, Bad Blood in Your House. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. So tonight is as of this recording, September 7th, 2025. Well, 3 days ago was the 30th anniversary of the very first Monday Nitro.
That's right.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, 30 years ago.
30 years ago, like
30 years ago, the Monday Night Wars began.
Yeah.
Toledo. Oh my god.
I know. So there are some community questions. We'll get to that, but I do want to ask you guys one question.
Sure.
And
you're still here.
Okay. All right. Yoshils, I'll go with you first. How much did the Monday Night Wars influence you as a wrestling fan?
It influenced me a lot because I think I answered this before, so this is definitely going to be really short. It influenced me a lot because that's when I first kind of like started watching wrestling more so because we were switching back and forth when we were watching it. On Mondays, my friends would actually come over, my brother's friends, so we had like a really like packed house of like everyone just watching wrestling. Like, and then during the pay-per-views, we used to do the same thing too because we got the pay-per-views. So whether it be for money or not, that's another side of the story. But wires and such. But
I get you.
But if you know from the old days of how to use a wire correctly, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I used to watch it with my friends and stuff. It was a big deal. Like it's funny because we were not the only ones that did stuff. There was a lot of people that were doing this too. So it influenced a lot because not only were you talking about it in school, you would hear it from the outside. And I live across the street from the gym that WWE had the license with at the time. So, well, now WWF. So I was actually able to meet Chris Benoit, Perry Saturn, Eddie. I was able to meet Stone Cold, The Rock, Mankind. And then across the street on the other side, there was a video game store that was near me that used to get all the wrestlers. So, again, I have pictures of this. I met John Cena. I met the Dudley Boys. I met Farouk and Bridge. So, like, I was very lucky. I was very, very fortunate as a wrestling fan that I was able to meet all these people. Like Taz, one of my favorites from Red Hook. So, the Monday Night Raws in particular, it influenced me like a lot, like how I actually perceive things. So, it's funny because I feel like it made me more alert in situations too, because like all the stuff that used to happen, like you would never expect it.
Yep.
So nowadays, like I take the train, I'm like, well, I expect anything. So I guess in that way it does too. But yeah, that's basically it. There's not really too much to it.
All right. What about you, Jeremy?
So since I didn't really watch the Attitude Era, I don't know if I have anything that really influenced me as a wrestling fan per se, because I didn't really watch it live in the moment as it happened. So I'm kind of on the repercussive side of all of it. But I think what I can gather from it, especially since that first SmackDown episode that I watched that actually truly enticed me into what professional wrestling and the world of sports entertainment is that there was dramatics, there was drama, and it's basically a soap opera in its own right. And that's what it's set up to be. It's based on, how can we keep things moving? What is our momentum? What is the character development? What are these characters going to do in the next coming weeks? Are we flying by the seat of our pants? So I think the tail end of the Attitude Era showed me that it is entertainment and that this is modern day Gladiator. This is a forum where you have people who are at a point where they want to tell good stories. But before it was very, very cut and dry. Like, these are your characters. This is the scenario they're put in. Let's go. But now you're looking at promos with Bayley talking to her other characters, and it's mind games. It's very cinematic. It's very complex. And I think that the complexity of it all started coming out of the Attitude Era into ruthless aggression. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mentality tell you about where these characters are headed and what kind of stories we'll be able to tell? All of that came from the Monday Night Wars and the writer's ability to get out of the old mindset of, oh, we have this very basic character. What situation do we put them in? Whereas the Attitude Era taught them, oh, how can we make Stone Cold into a heel and try to move forward and have it fail? Like it taught them so many lessons about character development in a complex forum and how to keep an audience enticed, growing into becoming parents, growing out of their bloodlusting teenage years of all they want to do is yell out like Grandpa Simpson, "We pay!" And where do you go from there? So the Monday Night Wars taught longevity in sports entertainment. It taught them about long form storytelling in terms of character development and not just a week by week format. That's what I gathered from all of that. As a person who like reads scripts and like, that whole idea of memorizing and being able to put on a show, like that's what you're getting now. You're getting trained athletes who are performers, and this is where we've come to. And
Yep.
and the Monday Night Wars taught people how to do that.
All right.
Right.
Silver, how did the Monday Night Wars influence you as a wrestling fan?
I'd say for me, again, since I didn't really watch the peak of it. Like, again, I was there for like really the peak of it, and again, I was very, very young, so I was really more or less dabbling in the culture and the after effects really of the attitude. Like, again, I never really dove in really into like, again, early ruthless aggression, and then post, again, Eddie's passing. But I guess like my takeaway from the attitude era is that, like, again, it was culture. Like, it was like the night. If there's anything you think about like the 90s, like, you can't like have the 90s without the Monday Night Wars. Like, it was a quintessential part of it. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that people remember about, like, oh, like they'll watch like, you know, MTV, you know, they'll remember like, you know, they'll remember, of course, like wrestling, they'll remember The Simpsons, they'll remember like all these shows, Beavis and Butthead and all of that. Like, it was part of just the cultural zeitgeist at the time, where like it was one thing to do, you know, Monday nights, you know, at 8 p.m. on the USA Network, you know, for the next 2 hours, see these guys like basically like, you know, be larger than life characters, you know, at the time, and then like be more realist characters, but also like seeing these characters on, you know, seeing other characters on like TBS or TNT, you know, trying to like prove like a better product, like really kind of take away from like, I guess like, again, like the 90s were interesting times to look back on, because like there was like a lot of like prosperity, but also a lot of people just like had like a not like their thought process of like how things were going was just like very, very middling. You know, the Soviet Union collapsed, so like, you know, there was no longer the ever lingering spirit of communism, you know, ready to take over. Like, it was just like, you know, consumerism and spending and all sorts of like, you know, Americanized, like, you know, beginnings of that's really just taking root. You know, like that was just kind of like how it was. And a lot of people like will go back and say like, you know, wrestling is always like a reflection of like the attitude at the time, really, because like you go back to like the earlier 80s era of like, you know, like large enough characters like Hogan, you know, eat your vitamins, say your prayers, you know, that's all about like, you know, America, you know, like, you know, America defeating like the bad guys, you know, from Russia or like or whatever. But like as we dip into like early attitude or new generation, it's less about like, you know, larger than life characters, more about like realism. You know, it's a lot more like, you know, characters that aren't just like, oh, like I'm the Repo Man. Like, no, my name is Kevin Hall, and I'm like yay tall, and like I can kick your ass. You know, it's you know, the NWO. You know, it's about like a badass group of like counterculture. Counterculture was basically like the big thing in the 90s. You know, it was all about like just like not being a part of the system.
No,
you know. Like that was like a huge part. Like, again, like, you know, even remember like, you know, like Bart Simpson was a counterculture icon at that point too. You know, huge icon.
It's exactly why the artist formerly known as Prince went on Muppets Tonight instead of Jay Leno.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, yeah.
Like it's all about like, you know, like not submitting to the culture at the time. Like, it's really countering that, and wrestling reflected that in so many different ways that like you can see like basically it's a reflection of like the society at the time, right? So as I'm growing up in that society, especially, you know, in my time, like 98, 99, like as things are trying to ease up a little bit again, I like my wrestling, my the how do I put this? Me and wrestling, you know, we're like I in a sense of like I see it as like a TV show of like, oh, like, you know, sometimes I don't think it's real because like, again, I'm a kid, so like I'm thinking some of it's real, some of it's not. Again, I was scared by the Undertaker as a 7-year-old. Like, what a surprise! But as I grew up, you know, you see like I understand like, okay, these are, you know, real people. Like I eventually I think I broke out of kayfabe like around like 2010s, 2008, like I think late like basically like late original aggression, like kind of begin like the PG era of sorts.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's when I realized, oh, like, oh, it's you know, it's scripted. You know, like these guys are obviously like, you know, they don't have real powers or anything, and they can't summon no lightning, so I'm fine. it's just Mark Calloway.
Yep.
You know, right? But like, right, it's right, exactly.
Right.
Like, I think my take was like it's. I've always enjoyed like just like the storylines of like how. You know, building long-term storylines, being able to build a character from nothing to something, you know, the fact that like they can come from basically anywhere, and like if they really be able, if they're able to like take a root in the audience, and like build from there. Again, like I bring up like the New Age Outlaws and how like again that catchphrase got them over like crazy. You know, the wrestling again. I don't really think about the wrestling. You know, I know like Billy Gunn can do the famous or I don't know. I forgot. I know Road like does like the shake or roll, but like, you know, I don't really think about the wrestling. I think about like just like how they connect with people. Like I feel like the connections with the characters. Like in the answer, it felt like almost anything can get over.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy to think about. Like it felt like, you know, people it allowed for characters to be really distinct and different. Like try really anything and like see what gets over. Nowadays, you know, with wrestling, like granted, like it's still about the same thing. You know, but the internet has a huge influence now. It's like who gets over or what gets over. Like, you know, crowd appeal and all that stuff. Like there's a lot of things from the attitude that I think that seeps into like me being a wrestling fan, where it's like I understand, like, you know, there's some things that can pull. There's something that they can pull that will like that either work, you know, in the new age, or like they're like, oh, like he's trying to replicate the Red era. Like a lot of people try to bring back the old style too, like, you know, TNA being on Mondays to try to counter like Raw.
Yeah.
and that was horrible. I was watching through that era, by the way.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the first time I keep like I flip channel between Raw and Impact to see like how things are going.
That and even as most recent, like back in 2019 to 2021, when WWE decided to put NXT on Wednesdays,
the Wednesday Night Wars
to go against AEW, and it ended up not working well for NXT.
Yeah, see that was the one where like I was like trying to pay attention to both, but like at that point, like I was starting to part of WWE because like there was just not very good TV. NXT was so phenomenal, you know. Like Shell and I have been to like 4 of the 5 takeovers that they had in the Barclays.
Yes,
yeah.
And,
I was there too. I was at the first 3. They were so amazing.
Yeah, great, phenomenal shows. Like
yes,
so good.
Yeah,
like the fact that it's coming up on like God, I feel like it's like 10 years since like Takeover 1 or 11 years.
It's 8 years because my son was already born by the time Brooklyn 1 was around.
Yeah,
like for me,
right.
For me, it's like, yeah, because just the way that things were back then, like how much of like a different time the 90s was, because everybody was just having an edge. Like everything that you loved back then, it's like everything was growing up, but it's a matter of if you're going to grow up with it or you're going to be left behind.
Right.
Like just because back then it was like I was watching between WWF, Monday Night Raw, or Raw as well as it was called, and I was watching a lot of MTV around this time. I was watching anything that seemed edgy because I was becoming a teenager around this time. And so just that era as a whole, like 1999 just felt so surreal. And then like once we got into the year 2000, even more so, because like to me, I feel like the best in terms of wrestling, the best years for the Monday Night Wars for WWF side were 1997 and 2000 and 2000.
Yeah.
2000, like but especially in terms of pure wrestling, like
right.
But in terms of the WCW side, their best years in the Monday Night Wars were 96 and 97.
Early years.
I agree.
80 weeks.
98 was okay, but the moment that the finger poker do happen, WCW was never the same.
Yeah, they never won in the ratings ever again afterwards. Like it was that bad.
The last time that WCW won in the ratings was the night after Halloween Havoc, because the feed got cut off during the main event between Goldberg and DDP. So
and they had to broadcast the end of that the rest of that event because like people were really mad at the pay-per-view company for cutting them off.
Yeah. Yep. So like in the 9 o'clock hour, which was around the time where Raw was starting, they aired the entire match between Goldberg and DDP. So for anyone that missed it, because they wanted to make good and just have people watch the match that if they missed it, but it also meant that those who didn't have a chance to order the pay-per-view got to watch a main event match for free on TV.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So for me,
I was like, I got the table of like the ratings like on my sidebar here,
Yeah.
and like it's kind of amazing to see like how like they've gone from like two like 2 million, 3 million, and then like by like 99 just like 7 million, 8 million, like
Yeah, that's
wow, it is nutty like how like this how meteoric the rise of wrestling was like in that time,
Yeah,
like
it was a
insane
big deal.
stuff, big deal.
You gotta remember, like when they brought Mike Tyson in, that was one of the biggest spikes they ever got ever. Because everybody's like Mike Tyson, they got Mike Tyson. Like that was a big deal back then. You know, that's not a joke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even like, and as stupid as it may sound, like Drew Carey being on the Royal Rumble, like
Royal Rumble, yeah.
So, like, first of all, he was one of the biggest talk show hosts like on the planet at that time. Like a lot of people was like it was Drew Carey and what's that other guy's name? The older guy. He passed away, but
Pete Rose.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Heroes, yeah.
like he was a big name. So when he came onto the show and they was doing the Royal Rumble, they were like people were like Drew Carey, like holy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it, like at that time, it was a big. Not nowadays, it's not really a big deal, but back then it was a huge deal. Like Mike Tyson wrestling, it makes sense. So I think that's where the spike came from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it's crazy though. It is crazy.
Like the main thing I remember is that just seeing so many different wrestlers that you never thought would ever get over in any other era. Like there were wrestlers who were jobbers or lower mid card in one era that became like huge later on. Like especially the Attitude Era. I'm gonna give you a prime example of that. The Hardy Boys. They were jobbers in the WWF for years. And then they officially signed contracts with the WWF in 1998. And they would start wrestling in like the lower card shows. They would wrestle in Sunday Night Heat. But 1999 was a pivotal year for them because that was when they started to become more noticed. They originally paired up with Michael P.S. Hayes, who at the time kind of still was getting out of the name Doc Hendricks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
actually eventually switching over to Michael Penis Hayes. Yes, I got it.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
yeah, that did happen.
So what happened was eventually they turned on Michael P.S. Hayes and they ended up like going with Gangrel as part of the New Brood, and then that eventually led to their match at No Mercy 1999, where it had that ladder match. It was Devin Edge and Christian, and that match stole that show. Like that.
Yeah.
Then they had a standing ovation, and then the next night on Raw, they shook hands and everything. Because like we're not New Brood, we're the Hardys, and
Right.
and then they shook hands, mutual respect. Then Gangrel comes out with Terry Runnels because there was a Terry Runnels Invitational tournament. That was the finals of that tournament.
Oh yeah, that did happen too.
And Terry was going to be like with the Hardys for a while, but what happened was that the moment that Gangrel said that while you guys wrestled, I'm the one that scored. Everybody, like both the Hardys and Edge and Christian, beat the living shit out of them. It was both a burial to Gangrel as well as the Hardys showing that they don't need Gangrel anymore, and Edge and Christian were like, yeah, we don't need you either. We are doing well on our own. We don't need you. We will be continuing to do the best that we can without you, and that's exactly what both teams have done.
Right.
And just seeing people like in different mediums, I would see the Attitude Era stars like guest star in TV shows. Like I remember that 70s show. The Rock was a part of that. Like there were other wrestlers like Ken Shamrock and the Hardys, like they appeared, but The Rock, he portrayed his father, Rocky Johnson.
Yeah, he did do that.
That and I believe Triple H guest starred in an episode of the Drew Carey Show as the disciplinarian, despite still looking like but it was just Triple H, just had a different name. He had his DX shirt, he had the Intercontinental Championship at the time.
Yeah, I remember also like I think Vader was on like Boy Meets World.
Yeah,
Yes.
Vader was on Boy Meets World numerous times, but the
Mm.
one that stood out to me was there was an episode where Corey and Sean got tickets to go watch Vader versus Jake the Snake Roberts, and
Mhm.
but at the same time it was Topanga's birthday party. I believe it might have been her sweet 16. So
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
they tried to be in both places at once, and how the hell did that even work in the first place? Because like when you leave the arena, they're not letting you back in.
The magic of fiction, basically.
Right.
And,
Storytelling.
and like and the crazy thing is I think it was on both sides. With like I think WCW had I think it was like an episode of like Baywatch
Yeah,
that they had like WCW stars appear on, and I think they had like Bash at the Beach, that was like in the same era because like, I think they were filming as well that episode. So it was topical for them to be in that area for a show.
there was a Sabrina.
Mhm.
There was a Sabrina the Teenage Witch episode that randomly had Kevin Nash.
Yeah, and also my all-time favorite thing, that Sprite commercial with Sting where he beats the kid.
Yes!
beats the kid up.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is the best. That
Don't
is the
forget
best.
the movie. Don't forget the movie.
Ready to Rumble.
Ready to
Yeah.
Rumble. Oh god.
And David Arquette.
which led to David Arquette winning the WCW championship.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which is the funny
Great.
thing is, though, is that he's actually a really nice guy. But
He is.
like, it's funny because he didn't even want to do it, but he had to do it to promote the movie. That's what basically what happened.
And
Yeah.
all the money that he made went to the families of Owen Hart and Brian Pillman.
There you go. see?
Yeah, that is
Oh.
true.
Yeah,
He's
And
a
the-
class act.
And even later on, like he even had a bit of a small like wrestling career.
yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually met him at a SummerSlam, though. It was funny because we were going to the entrance, and I was like, he was in front of me. It was at the SummerSlam at the Barclays Center.
Oh,
So-
Ah,
And
Nice.
I happened to be walking with my brother and a couple of friends,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden I look in front of me. I'm like, "Is that David Arquette?" So I'm like, we were walking to the entrance and we're waiting to get scanned, like to come in. I said, "I gotta ask, are you David Arquette?" He goes, "I am." I said, "Oh!"
So he looks in the mirror. He goes, "Oh my gosh, this thing."
It was so
hang on, let me
cool.
get my ID and check.
yep.
I
like,
still have a picture of that too because it was so funny. Because the guy's like, "All right, I'm ready to scan you guys." I was like, "Oh shit!" And then I just took the picture. It was so funny. But
Yeah. That's dope though.
yeah. But I was like, it's funny because people don't know this about the movie either. Did you know that in the background, this is like such a stupid thing, but
John Cena was
in the background of the gym scene when they're going to go see Goldberg to try to convince him to be on their team. John Cena's in the background.
John Cena was in the background.
Oh, that's right.
Oh
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry,
he's actually
I
there in the
remember now.
background. I
Oh
was like,
man.
and he's like, you could clearly see him because he has that face. So it's so
Yeah.
funny when you actually watch it. Like, watch it again and see if you could point them out in the background where Goldberg
Because
is.
like that was before he even got signed to WWE, and I think
Yep.
that was pre-prototype John Cena.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it
it was
was.
right
Yeah,
before
it
it.
was.
Yeah,
How crazy is that?
really.
Mhm.
Pretty nuts.
And it's like I remember like especially during like 1998, 1999, they would have WCW on MTV when they would do like during
Sunday
the
Night Heat.
spring break.
Yes.
Sunday Night Heat as well for WWF, but I remember spring break they had WCW wrestlers doing a battle royale, and there was one the 97. It was a disaster because someone actually like threw something. They threw like a rock or they threw something at Kevin Nash, and Kevin Nash chased after them.
Yeah, that did happen.
And both Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were like, if you don't get rid of this guy, we're never doing anything with you ever again.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
Yeah.
you just made me remember something too. Was when I think it was the Headbangers was chasing Crash Holly during the Hardcore title.
Yeah.
Like the 24/7
The
title.
24/7 title, yeah.
Actually, funny enough, over where I live, I want to say like maybe 20 minutes away, is actually where Funtime USA used to be. I
I've
used to
heard of
go
it.
there when I was a kid, and that's where they filmed
Yeah.
it. Was there?
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was actually in New York when they did that filming for that.
yep.
It was
Wait,
actually
the
pretty
Fun
cool.
Time USA at the Metro Mall?
Yeah.
I grew up 5 minutes from there.
Wow.
You guys see this
Wow.
clip? You guys see this clip then? Because Crash Holly's there. He's trying to hide
I
from
gotta
everyone.
find this. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Just
that
like
used to be the Discovery Zone in the Toys R Us.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
grew up 5 minutes from there. That's crazy.
Small world, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Crazy.
Like WWF and WCW was everywhere during that time. Like you couldn't
Yeah,
really go
it really
anywhere.
was. And you couldn't go anywhere without some kid wearing a wrestling T-shirt.
Yes,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
I've been to amusement parks. I remember like going to like an amusement park upstate visiting family, but my older brother used to live there, and there were so many kids wearing DX shirts where in the back it said 2 words "suck it," and they censored
it.
and they censored "suck."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that, like because like it was wrestling shirts. It was shirts that said "Make 7 Up yours." It had South Park shirts and any shirts with the current bands, rappers, and other music artists of the time. Like
Right.
that was basically like 98, 99 in a nutshell. Like people were just wanting to wear something that was just trendy. Plus people who dressed like they were skateboarders or roller skaters and all that. The
Skateboard culture definitely right there.
exactly. And WWF Attitude Era definitely fit in with all that.
Mhm.
So, yeah. I do want to ask. I do want to ask you guys the questions from Ice because Ice Pick was the only person to ask because surprisingly low amount of wrestling fans in my server.
It's all good.
Yeah.
More video game fans than wrestling fans, but it's all good.
More gaming than wrestling, but yeah. So, in your opinion, so Ice Pick asks, in your opinion, did WCW ever have a realistic chance of winning the Monday Night War and putting the WWF out of business? They would have had that. If, and only if they wouldn't have fucked up so much, but the best time that they could have done this would have been towards the end of 1997, right after the Montreal Screwjob happened. And when they just signed Bret Hart, he was the hottest he's ever been. Coming off of the Montreal Screwjob, you would think that if you would have capitalized on that, you could have made something huge. But
Yeah.
there was one thing that stopped it. One person, and that person is Hulk Hogan.
Yep. Yep.
Because he had to stick his nose in and go, that doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that contract that Hulk signed for WCW. Like, it is insane what they gave him. Like,
Yeah.
merchandising rights, you know, a lot of like this, like, you know, him like being able to like be the champion for a bit. Like, there's a lot in there that's like, I'm like, wow, they agreed to all. Like, granted, I understand it's Hulk freaking Hogan, but like, geez, like
They gave him everything.
everything. Like
yeah.
like for example, for any wrestler who had a toy, like if Hogan was like was like in like conjunction with that, he had a cut of that too. Like, it is nuts. But like, to answer the question though, like really truly, like, you know, I think they definitely did, because like at the point that they really came in, the WWF sucked.
Yeah.
Like, plain and simple. Like, they just didn't have good storylines. The wrestlers were just caricatures. The new generation didn't work out as well as they had hoped, and they were trying their best to counteract a fresher, you know, edgier product that WCW was putting out there. And again, like, what, you know, in classic WCW fashion, what gets in the way is themselves and the egos, you know, because like, in their mind, they're on top of the wrestling world. There's no way Vince and the dusty old WWF are going to come back, you know, and build themselves back up, you know, they got that guy who's a jobber for us, Mick Foley, you know, or that guy that we fired, you know, Stunning Steve Austin, whatever the hell his name is, you know, like, you think that they'd have like a golden opportunity to do that, but then again, it's the hubris that really like does them in, and that what they realize, you know, too long, that like, you know, there's no turning back, because once momentum really starts shifting towards when things, you know, shift towards the Attitude Era, like, you know, WWF, like, it's kind of a wrap, you know. And then also again, like, hang on to the NWA for as long as he did. I think that also killed him personally.
And then,
Yeah.
Well, it's because that's all they had.
That's all they really had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really sure that's all they had. Like NWO was an amazing thing, you know, Hulk Hogan turning heel, but like I feel like it wasn't until like till the rise of Goldberg that they had like a proper, you know, actual like hot like storyline.
Well, the problem is the way that the NWO worked is that there was 3 people in it at the start. And that's what it should have been. It should have just been 3 people and that's it.
Yep,
But then
all
everybody
national
started going into it, and then they made the Wolf Pack. And I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, the Wolf Pack was kind of cool, but even so, like it wasn't anything good.
Had a really
But-
cool theme song.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it did. But that's what made them the Wolf Pack. Like,
Right.
but then again, they also had a whole pay-per-view for NWO, which was stupid.
Sold out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My God.
You don't want to watch that. It's such a shit show.
I think I've seen like the Wrestling with Regret like review of it. Like, oh boy. Like the idea on paper seemed like like they've taken over the company, but at the same time, like, geez, that's all you got.
Yeah. But I will piggyback on what you said that they're in their own hubris where they feel like WWE, you know, whatever. But I have to not agree with the fact that you said that they had 100% had a chance. I feel like they had a 0 chance because of that. Because even if, let's just say, for example, like even if they didn't say anything about the Mankind thing, right? And that's really where it started slipping down because they messed up with that.
Right.
But if they would have just, you know, whatever, like if they kept their mouth shut, just kept to themselves. But the problem is they have the same issue as AEW has now, where they keep trying to piggyback on everything WWE does. So, as you could see, it's not working now. Back then, it definitely didn't work either. So I feel like because of what they were doing and they were talking more about WWF more than they were talking about their own company at some points. And
Right.
because of that, like, that's what killed them also. And I don't think they had any chance whatsoever, no matter who they put in charge. They could have had Vince McMahon go to WCW and it still wouldn't have worked.
Which Bischoff wanted because like he was trying to like fight. He was trying to get Vince to show up on Nitro to fight for a fight or whatever.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was no chance whatsoever. Like from what I was watching back then when I was a kid and what I think now, they had no chance whatsoever. It just wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
All right. Jeremy?
All right.
Well, I think that in the long run, we could see that WWF was definitely going to come out on top. And I think because of the business acumen, if you are entering into one type of business, trying to compete with another type of business, you're in the wrong business. You're not competing for the same thing. You're in a realm of who has the better emotional intelligence for the situation.
Yeah.
So I think that WWF at the time had the better emotional intelligence for the situation because they were in the business of entertainment. Whereas you have Ted Turner, who is going into the wrestling business, and you're just buying up with whatever you have in your, pocketbook just so you can prove a point. No, like that's not good for long-term gain. He knew that entering into the wrestling business would give him short-term gain. He knew that going in. Just to spite Vince McMahon out of the deal that he didn't take by going to USA. So when you create a business acumen based on spite, you're not going to last. It's short-term gain. And again, your emotional intelligence is not at the forefront of how well it's going to be. So when you've got creative handling things the way that they're doing week to week to week, then hour to hour to hour, it's not going to work. These guys were getting paychecks every 2 weeks. And if that's what put food on the table for them, they were going to sit on the couch and think that they're just the biggest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
You're not gonna last. And these guys were under the idea that short-term gain was what's going to give them the opportunity to invest and just pile on to whatever they could in escrow. Didn't work. It didn't work. And who suffered? The fans. And what's the problem there? They didn't listen. Listening is the greatest lesson that anybody can learn in life, period. And these guys as old and as crotchety as they were becoming, just chose not to listen.
Nope.
Vince McMahon, as crazy, stupid of a human being as he is, was smart in one condition. He was smart in that at some point he decided to listen, and then he paid people to listen for him. That was when everything started to switch into the whole ruthless aggression era, because he just stopped listening to anybody. So in terms of what it brought in 98, I think he did right by himself to listen to the right people. Did they listen to the fans? No. The extremism of the 90s did not permit big companies to listen to the edgy, like, fan base of the 90s.
Right.
I've said this before on the podcast. The 90s was Poochie from The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've brought this up before. You can't, like, bring kids into a room at that time and bank off of what they want, because nobody knew what they want. Like, no one understood at that point what they wanted. But then again, no one listens to each other. Everybody wanted to be the bigger person, which is why things were edgier. So in terms of longevity, I can always see that WWF was going to win this thing, just based off of them wanting to self-improve and not beat anybody else at someone else's entertainment game. They knew that they weren't in the wrestling business. They were in the entertainment business. They got SNL. They got The Rock on, whatever plateau they needed him to be on to talk, because he actually had the knack for it. Like, he was just naturally gifted at speaking to mainstream. So throughout all of this, they knew what they got in their hands in. They knew. Times Square, WWF, like, come on. They knew exactly where their market was. If they wanted to hit hometown heroes and you open up a business in Times Square, you knew what you were doing. You went public. You know what I mean? Like, the company went public.
Well,
And that in turn allowed them to give themselves the pressure of self-improvement. Did it work into the 2000s? No, not necessarily, but at least it gave them the to call upon a pun, it gave them the edge to know that self-improvement was going to be the thing that got them to listen.
Right. I mean, the funny enough thing, the public thing, it's kind of a half joke, but it's also something WCW did try. That's kind of, very kind of like the WWE, like, whole restaurant thing that they did. You have to look this up if you don't know what this is. And I mean, you really need to look this up. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Have you ever heard of Pasta Mania?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So they thought it would be a good idea to make a restaurant in the Mall of America, because that's when they were doing the show. It's the same show as Lex Luger came in. And they had Pasta Mania. They had a Hulk Hogan restaurant there.
Yeah.
And actually, funny enough, they did it before WWF, but it didn't work because Hulk Hogan, they had Stroganoff, and they had Hogan Hokios, and
they had like a lot of weird menu items on.
Which is if you ever look it up, you're gonna find a picture of Hulk Hogan in the hat holding a pasta dish in his hand. But it's so funny because the way, I've seen it a million times, this whole thing, and that's why it makes me laugh that you said that. Even when WCW was trying to do the stuff that WWF succeeded in some ways, they couldn't even do it correctly. Because it's like half of the stuff they did just didn't work because they didn't know what they were doing. They just did stuff to do it, and it didn't work. So it's just so funny that you think about that. But
yeah, you can't go into something with wanting a short-term gain.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And I think that's exactly what that was.
Okay, so real quick, look at the podcast guest room, because there was somewhere in Minnesota, there's like a remnant of Hulk Hogan's Pasta Mania sign somewhere.
Yes.
I've been seeing this picture for years. Yeah.
Someone,
Wow.
I actually, funny enough, so what happened was someone took the sign from the mall because they threw it out. They took it and just attached it to the store, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even like sell or anything. They just attach it to their own store, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
That is so odd.
My God.
And I think it was like a laundromat or something. It wasn't even a food place.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so awesome.
Also, because you mentioned Pasta Mania, I have to one up you right now, Yoshils.
Oh no.
There was a place in Las Vegas called the Nitro Grill.
Yes.
Oh, they did. They had it. Yes, they had the place.
The
I-
Nitro
The
Grill.
Nitro Grill.
I think it only lasted like a year, and that's it at most.
Which hotel was it in? I forget.
Okay, so it lasted close to a year and a half. So here's what it was. So the Nitro Grill was an American professional wrestling themed steakhouse owned by WCW. It opened on May 22nd, 1999. That's the day before Owen Hart passed. What the
Nice.
fuck?
Wow. And it's the Excalibur Hotel. I just googled it real quick.
Yeah, I knew it was one of the hotels. Oh, the Excalibur. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it closed 6 months before WCW got bought out by the WWF, and the former location is now like Dick's Last Resort, which is a bar and restaurant.
Yeah. I was like crazy. It's also crazy that was like a few months before the WWF New York opened up.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. They even did it before them, and they still messed it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was
It just goes to show you, like, no matter what they did, they just couldn't do it correctly. That's why, like, it's funny that like everybody's like, "Oh, they had a chance to win." I'm like, "Yeah, no, you weren't there for that."
there was a WWE Niagara Falls store that lasted from July 2002 until March 2011.
So
Right.
Yeah.
their face, I guess their faces when they looked at the finances was the Luigi in the back of your head.
Yep. But they have but
Oh, man.
WWE has since opened up a WWE Experience theme park, but I will never go there for one reason. It's in Saudi Arabia.
They did do that, didn't
They
they?
did do that.
Right.
Isn't that
Jeez.
awesome? Aren't you so excited?
No.
Oh, boy.
I mean, they're fucking making a Dragon Ball Z park there, but nah, I would not go there
yeah,
either.
they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's like a lot of things that's weird about that.
But yeah,
Okay,
Also,
but
how's
back,
that poster? Where the big boys eat?
yes,
I just wanted to derail this for like 1 second, like the whole entire wrestling thing, because
Yeah.
this is also a video game. We gotta bring in the video game people in for a second. So you know Evo, the fighting game
Yeah.
thing. Okay,
Yeah.
did you know who bought them because they
Yeah.
sold it? Okay.
yeah, Saudi Arabia. Yep, I'm not happy about that.
Not because Sony sold their stake and they went to that company and then they got
Yeah.
bought by the. Oh, geez, it just sucks all around, man.
It's a mess. All right,
It's
Yeah.
a mess.
I'll have to
Right.
look that up because I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to eventually make that as a topic for the future, like in regards to fighting games. And I'll figure that out. But I do want to have this question answered for my
Okay.
quick, because after this we're gonna wrap it up.
All right.
Okay.
Considering how so many wrestlers that were mid-carders in one company managed to become megastars after jumping to the other, are there any talents that you think would have done so between if they have jumped ship from WWF to WCW or vice versa? And if so, who are they and why? Like I know like someone like Chris Jericho was a mid-carder at best in WCW, but became a big star in the WWE. And Jeff Jarrett was a mid-carder in the WWF, but became a big star in WCW, became a world champion there.
He also
That's
got
true.
punched, he also got punched in the dick by what's his name?
Yeah,
I forgot that dude's name too.
Oh my goodness, I forget his name off the top of my head. He's the He's the small guy from Howard Stern.
Right, I can't remember his name too.
You guys know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about. But I forgot his name.
And then Jeff Jarrett hit him in the head with a with a guitar.
Just kidding. You called him slap nuts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. Well, like, let's see here.
let's see.
All right, so who would be good from WCW to go to WWF? I would say super crazy. No, I'm kidding.
I know who I won't say because they weren't mid carders at all, but like I know like Sting was fiercely loyal, so he was never ever going to jump first and foremost.
I have to wonder what if I know Billy Kidman did join WWF in 2001 when his contract got bought by WWF and he was signed, but I have to wonder what if Billy Kidman actually went to WCW in 2000 with the Radicals at the same time.
He probably would have did okay. He's not as good as them though, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's not a technical wrestler like them, so he doesn't really like go with them.
Like
though.
fit in with them, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I get it.
But there was a story that Shane Douglas was going to go with them because he was part of the Revolution stable, and that Eddie Guerrero wasn't part of the Revolution. He was part of the Filthy Animals. But
yeah,
what happened?
Filthy Animals.
Yeah, right.
But what happened was that so it's a multitude of couple things. One, WWF was not interested in bringing Shane Douglas after when he was in the WWF briefly in '95 as Dean Douglas. And he was supposed to wrestle Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental Championship at an In Your House show. But Shawn Michaels made some random excuse to back out of it, saying, "Oh, I'm hurt and everything," and he dropped the belt. So Shane Douglas was awarded the belt by default, and then afterwards he would go on to wrestle Razor Ramon and drop the belt to Razor. So yeah, he has a huge hatred towards the Clique. But even then, the other reason that he didn't go jump ship is because supposedly Dean Malenko ghosted him.
Yes.
Yep.
And it turned out that Dean Malenko was talking with the management of the WWF behind his back without him being a part of it, that they were just going to go on without him. And and afterwards, because they were friends, but after that, not anymore.
I mean, see, the other thing also is like WWF knew how the talent was. So it's like, for example, like they didn't take Goldberg right away. So like they knew because he wasn't a great wrestler. He's like a 5-minute guy. So like they didn't use him right away. Or like, for example, like you're going to take someone called Glacier, you know what I'm saying? Like, like I get it. Like the problem is that I just think there was more talent in ECW than there was in WCW by the end.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, and they took the people that they took. Booker T. They used Sting at one point, but Sting didn't really want to go. Ric Flair came back and did Evolution. You got Buff. I wish Buff Bagwell would have been better, but
It was only there
as much as I like Buff Bagwell, he's not that great either.
He was only there for a cup of coffee. That's it.
Yeah. And Scott Steiner, he's so funny on the mic. The problem is that because he was so loose-lipped in WCW, that like it wouldn't have flew in WWF, and it didn't because him and Triple H and all that too. So that didn't happen either. So it's like it's a loaded question, but when you kind of like break it down, there's not really many people that I feel that actually would have been good that way. The other problem is now when you switch it and you say, "Oh, who would have been good at WCW?" I don't think anybody would have been because they were messing up everybody there to begin with.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really work that way. It's more so, it feels like it's being discounted by ECW. Like, who would have been good if ECW took a different route? Like, for example, RVD, if he would have went to WCW, that would have been a little bit different because they already had the cruisers. So he would have been okay there, but he wouldn't have been better at WWF. But like, for example, I don't know, would the blue meanie would be better in WCW? Would you,
No.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
would not,
it's a
man.
logical. It's hard because like you don't really know where it would take. Like, I feel like the few things would have been like if Raven would have been used better, he definitely would have did a lot more of an impact. Like he would have been like a CM Punk if he was better, you know?
All right.
Because CM Punk is like, you know, the straight edge society, but he still had a society. He had a group. So Raven had the Raven flock. It would have worked the same way.
Yeah.
So if that would have worked, it would have worked. Sandman doesn't make no sense because he's a drunk. And then God, because I love the Sandman. This is true. It wouldn't have worked. Sabu misses half of his shows to begin with. It wouldn't have worked.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I feel like I'm talking too much about it. I want to hear what you guys think.
Honestly,
question to
it's
answer
perfect.
because it's a
It's
whole
tough.
what if scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true because like some people just like were better in their current companies and like and the idea of them like jumping ship, like, you know, how does that really, like, you really want to like would they get like lost in the shuffle, or like would they get over? Like, it's really hard to determine that stuff because like it's hard to determine like if they're gonna bring that kind of character over and like if it works for that kind of audience, because like really these are two different audiences at the end of the day.
Right. It's more so a question of it would work better question wise if it was a nowadays AEW over WWE. Who would work better in their own companies? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Something like
Because-
that, yeah.
It's more so like because AEW is more so like, even though I called it before like kind of like a trainee group, at the same time they still got good people. Like they still have Ospreay, they still have, and I'm not a crazy Young Bucks guy. I actually really don't like them.
That's
But
fair.
they're good. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say they're
Right.
not, you know, they're not bad. They're good. And then I love Kenny Omega. I think he's an amazing wrestler too.
Right.
So it's like it's one of those things where that works a little bit better because WWE is more entertainment wise, whereas AEW is more action oriented.
Yeah.
right.
It's like if I were to say, like, if I were to trade Will Ospreay from AEW, bring him to WWE, and then in his place I would send, like, if I had to think of somebody like that would be close to his level, it's really hard because there's not that many that are close to his level, to be honest. But if I had to come up with somebody, go ahead.
Javon Evans. Javon Evans is he's in NXT, but he's crazy good.
You know what?
Oh yeah,
because I would want to see Javon Evans versus Ricochet.
Yeah, no, both of them would be impressive because, like, geez.
The joke I would make is send Roman Reigns over there, give me Samoa Joe, trade the Joes. Trader Joe's.
Oh, man.
You know what? I can't think of one person. If Juventud Guerrero was used better and went to WWF before everything started falling apart, I feel like he would have been as good as Eddie Guerrero when he came in with the Radicals.
Yeah.
I could see that because he was good. It's just that he wasn't utilized enough. That's the problem.
Yeah. I'll say this right now. There's a wrestler who I think would have fit better in the Attitude Era than in the Ruthless Aggression Era. And it was a wrestler from WCW. Ultimo Dragon. Ultimo Dragon was...
There you go. See, yeah.
Ultimo Dragon was in much better shape back in the late 90s. If he would have went to WWF after leaving WCW, let's say he would have went to WWF in 1999, he would have had a much more successful career.
Right.
But he joined in 2003 because they wanted to have another wrestler that had the same exact hype and excitement that Rey Mysterio brought to the table. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out. That's the thing. Like, it wasn't exactly a bad run. It's just things didn't work out the way both parties wanted it.
Right.
Right.
Like I feel like if Scott Steiner was in WWE before everything fell apart, Like if he was in the Attitude Era at the start of it, like not really the start of it, but like I would say like midway in. Like if he came in randomly, like where Chris Jericho came in, right?
No.
I feel like he would have been good in that position because all he does is beat people up. He would have been the Brock Lesnar of the Attitude Era
He
if
would
that
have
was the
been.
case.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because he even was able to do Hurta Karanas and stuff at the time. So I feel like he would have been good, but it was too little, too late. That's the problem.
I feel like he would have had better matches with Triple H back then than what he would have than what he actually did have with him.
Yeah, but then again, we also wouldn't have seen him beat up a duck. So I mean, I'll take what I can get.
Although it would have been wild, like if he would have brought Rick Steiner with him in 1999.
That would have been crazy.
And imagine if like WrestleMania 2000, we would have had a 4 tag team match instead of 3, and then like the Steiners would have been the 4th team alongside the Dudleys, the Hardys, and Edge and Christian.
You talking about for the TLC match?
Well, the triangular ladder match, and then the TLC matches, and like and the Steiner brothers would have been added to that, like because that's 2 different powerhouses that would have been able to manage to work out well. Like they would have complemented like the other styles. Given
I guess. I mean, it definitely wouldn't have been a better match in my opinion for the TLC, but I would say that the one before that you mentioned, yeah, I would agree.
It just would have been more chaotic.
Yeah. It's just that like I guess that's more so like if they came in a different era, that's a little different. Like could you see Sting coming in during the Attitude Era? Not really. Like he was in the NWO, but he wasn't doing anything crazy like they were doing like they were doing then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like Taz would have did better if he came in earlier too.
Yeah, Taz would. Like if Taz would have made his debut in the WWF in 1997 or 98, it would have been better.
Yeah, I agree. Because he would have been fighting Ken Shamrock instead. They would have had submission matches.
Yeah. Because I feel like there were some stars that actually came in at the wrong time. There was one match I've always wanted to see, and we never got it. Because these two would never be in the same company at the same time. I've always wanted to see Ken Shamrock versus Dean Malenko. That would have been amazing.
Oh, that would have been
really cool.
Match.
But you wonder what's another match that I felt we were kind of robbed of not having? Dean Malenko versus Lance Storm. That would have been amazing too.
I agree.
I would have loved that. Like
that would have been great.
Like if they would have got Lance Storm if they would have got Lance Storm before WCW got Lance Storm, that would have been huge. Like they would have done if they would have done the Team Canada there, though I don't know if Chris Jericho would have joined it. Chris Benoit would have. But they would have and then they would have probably brought a bunch of other like wrestlers to come in as like part of Team Canada. Had they done it in WWF, if they would have swooped Lance Storm before WCW got him. But yeah. I kind of want to know your answer, Jeremy.
I'm to put pressure on you.
Oh boy. Okay.
As someone that didn't watch during the time.
Right. You said it before that Kenny Omega does not work in WWE. Like it
Right.
like the idea of it just doesn't work. But we also thought the same way about AJ Styles. So I feel like all bets are off, really. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm gonna drop this cliche BS.
Boogeyman in WCW?
Who?
The Boogeyman.
Wait, who?
The Boogeyman.
No, not the Boogeyman. No.
Oh, all right. You wanted RoboCop to be in WWF.
Oh no! I
Yeah.
want him on my cinema screen. I don't want him on my 35mm. No, I don't want him anywhere. I don't even want Judge Dredd to touch it. But I digress. I want to talk about Sting. Okay, so
Sting.
Yeah, but you know what though? I could also. Okay. Where's the money?
Man Cold Sting.
You know
Where's
what
the
I
money?
mean? Like, where's the
Right.
money?
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. Where was the money? The money was in WCW. So Ric Flair jumped. Sting stayed. Where was the money? Follow the money. I think if Ric Flair and had not gotten the deal he did, he wouldn't have jumped. He would have stayed. And I think they would have done better by him. I think that WWF would be different and it would be a different environment if Ric Flair stayed, because I think he would have turned into what Hogan turned into in WCW. Sting, on the other hand, I feel like I feel compelled to do what everybody else said and bring him over and have him fight The Undertaker. But therein lies the faux pas. I think that if Mark Calloway was good-spirited enough to allow Sting to come into his ministry faction and then have all of that break down and the two of them go at it, that would have been money.
No.
But that would be the only stipulation that I will allow. I would not allow Sting to come in solo because Mark Calloway would have buried him. But if Mark was in good graces enough to allow him to come into the faction and have everything break down in that way, I think that we could have gotten a tremendous story. And I think we could have gotten something that would bring other people in from the other company.
Okay.
But in terms of Ric Flair, if Ric Flair didn't follow the money, I think we would have gotten a totally different WWF product in the 90s.
Yeah.
But that's
Now-
just my feeling on it.
Are you talking about the Man Cold Sting, the Rafter Sting, or the Wolfpack Sting?
You know what? You know what? No. I think I'm gonna be very serious about this. I think the human being, what is Sting's real name?
Steve Broden.
Seaborden.
So if we brought him, you know what I mean? Like if we brought him in, I think that it would have serviced him well.
No, I mean it was actually funny enough. As much as I'm joking around right now, it actually was a serious question because the reason why I say it because the Man Cold Sting is the like Ultimate Warrior Sting. Then you got the Rafter Sting, which is the loner one, and then the Wolfpack Sting is the tag team one.
Yeah, and the Wolfpack Sting.
Yeah, Wolfpack Sting, I think,
right,
the best. And the only way, like the loner, they tried that with Raven in 2002, and it didn't work. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So,
yeah.
Right. So I mean, I feel like Wolfpack Sting would have worked. Crow Sting, absolutely. I mean, that's the Sting that they revealed when Hunter faced him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
yeah.
I think in terms of mythos and character development, Sting's character would have done so well in 1999 in WWF.
Yeah.
Right.
With the corporate ministry, I think if you wanted to go as far as using corporate ministry, I think that that Undertaker's character would have brought in the Wolfpack Sting and have all of that break down the way that it could. That would have been phenomenal.
Yep.
I would have loved that because I think that the main card for WrestleMania 2000 would have been very different if Sting were in. You know what I mean? And it all comes back to whatever like character he had then. But yeah, Ric Flair and Sting would be my two top if one hadn't traded or if one had gone over in terms of, I mean, it's all in the timing, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's all in the timing. But then again, follow the money was the biggest point in all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, those would be my two what if scenarios.
Real quick. Silver, did you give your answer?
I did a mishmash kind of earlier because it was hard for me to place like a specific one. So like, funny enough, I was saying like it was hard to like play Sting because like I felt Sting would be like featured low, but like honestly, Jeremy had a pretty good idea of like how to insert Sting into like into a very fresh like Attitude Era WWF. So look at that.
Yeah. Main thing I would have probably have said as well, like as I already mentioned, Ultimo Dragon, if he would have been brought in, and also Lance Storm, if he would have brought in earlier. The only other thing I would probably say, and this is like a WWF star going to WCW, like if they would have actually brought in, so there was a wrestler who was actually going to sign for WCW, but it was on the same day that WCW got bought by WWF, and you wonder who that was? It was Road Dogg, because he got released.
Really?
He got released earlier in the year, because
Yeah.
he had a lot of drug issues and he refused to go to rehab.
He was in rehab,
So
right?
so he went to WCW to pitch himself and in hopes that they could sign him, but it was on the same day that WCW got bought out by WWF.
And so that's why they had like the one Billy Gunn like gimmick going on, because like he'd like
Yeah.
flew out from the Outlaws were done, so was
Yeah.
DX in a way.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah.
When he did the solo run, yeah, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
The Rock buried him for winning the
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yep.
I remember where I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Really? Bob?
Oh,
My name is Billy.
It doesn't matter what
your
you
name is.
that actually started the whole "it doesn't matter" catchphrase.
But the funny thing is that buried Billy Gunn forever.
No way, yeah. Like
Yeah.
wow.
Also,
I mean, the Rock was good for burying people because like when he Mick Foley was talking to Al Snow in the back of the locker room to have Al Snow talk to have him and the Rock.
I remember that one.
And then
Al?
the Rock comes up, he goes, Al?
what about
He
like
just buried him in one word.
you wonder who had a very interesting 1999? The Undertaker, because he went from
Oh, yeah.
creating the Ministry of Darkness, then he would capture Stephanie McMahon and try to
To Stephanie.
he tried to marry her. Then the corporate ministry happened. But you wonder what was my favorite part of The Undertaker in 1999? When he teamed up with the Big Show.
Oh my God.
Oh wow, that did happen.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
jeez.
unholy
You need to
alliance.
stop.
The whole alliance. Yeah.
And they were slowly transitioning The Undertaker away from the Lord of Darkness
Mean spooky.
and he was slowly becoming the American Badass, but he wasn't quite there yet. But then he apparently has some sort of a pelvic injury in which he had to get surgery for, which causing him to miss he missed WrestleMania 2000. So
Yes.
then he came back in Judgment Day 2000, and he was the biker gimmick coming out to Kid Rock's American Badass.
Yes.
Man, that was wild. But yeah.
You're still here.
Anyway, well,
Oh,
and with that, that's gonna do it for the show.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys for being a part. Yeah, we definitely went through a lot. I
4 hours of nonstop attitude wrestling.
yep.
Awesome. Loved it.
I have to thank you guys once again. But before we
No
go,
problem, man.
Silver, where can we follow? Where can we find you?
Sure, you can follow me anywhere, honestly, but like not really. But like you can find me anywhere and everywhere as long as you know the name Sylverstone Khandr. I'm on Blue Sky, SylverstoneKhandr.com. I'm on Twitch, obviously. It's also Sylverstone Khandr, but the easy way to find me on Twitch, just type in your browser silver.stream. That's SYLVER.stream. You find me right there.
Yep.
And of course, for everything else, SylverstoneKhandr.com.
What about you, Yoshils?
You can find me on Instagram under the Yoshi Fox. I post my stuff on there now.
Yep.
And then if you can find me at TCG card shows, I am not, it's not a website. There's actually trading card game shows that I do go to where I have my own little table now.
That's nice.
So I do that also, like, because like I said, I do the Pokemon card thing and whatever. So I do that too.
Yeah.
And then also you could just find me on the street if you could find me somewhere.
All right. Jeremy?
You can find me behind you. No, my name is Jeremy. I am the Nostalgia Alchemist. I am always here for whenever you remember why. And if you type in the Nostalgia Alchemist anywhere on the internet, you'll find all the cool things that I'm doing under this brand. But as well, my name is Jeremy Lardieri. I am a SAG-AFTRA performer. I have been in theater for many, many years, and as a gamer looks at 40, I am just willing to entertain you any way that I can, through music, through theater, through the Nostalgia Alchemist, and I'm just happy to do it. Thank you for allowing me to do that for you. Thank you.
And you can find me pretty much anywhere within the stratosphere. Well, it's been mostly for me. It's been mostly Discord and Blue Sky. Like that's where I'm usually like at right now. Obviously Twitch and YouTube both. Though I need to use my main YouTube more for stuff I want to come up with. I do have the VOD channel, but yeah.
Of course.
Daily streams, Monday through Thursdays, with the occasional Friday and Sunday streams. Usually from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight, the latest. Next week, we are going to be going into the world of Springfield, as next week's episode is going to be about The Simpsons.
Oh,
Nice.
really?
Yes. And that is next week.
All right, so the next time we have to talk about the next 10 years, which is the ruthless aggression era.
I guess. Yep.
That'd be fun.
Simpsons. Shell. All right,
Yep.
I gotta.
All right.
If I miss the live, I'm watching the VOD.
Yeah.
All right, so if you're gonna ever talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, you could put me in that because we'll talk about the OVA the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thanks again, Shell.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for hosting
thank
us,
you
bud.
very much. I appreciate it. That was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for being a part of this. I'm glad to have you guys on. So, with that in mind, make sure to take care of yourselves. Be awesome. Stay awesome. Tell your loved ones you love them. Check them out as always. Fight for lasting peace. And I'll see you guys next time. And make sure you all have a good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night, y'all.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks for watching Sharing with Shellshock Season 4. Your name will be inscribed in the pages of podcast history.